Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, March 20th Town Council regular meeting for the Town of Pomo Beach. Meeting is officially called to order. If I could get you to silence all of your electronics, please. As is customary, if we could stand and have a moment of silence. Tonight I'd like to reflect on two of the folks in Pomo Beach who have left us, but they live on forever in our hearts, and they were here for their entire lives. And it's Ellie Mae Carruthers and Mildred Gilchrist. So if we could just have a moment of silence for them. Thank you. Now we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All members are present tonight. Are there any additions to the agenda?
I'd like to pass a resolution and get signed.
Okay. I don't think we need a resolution to do that. I think we can just direct the town manager and Public Works to remove the signs. Does that sound right?
If it was on the park, he was volunteer to do it.
Right.
Then just let him know we're going to go from here. I want to
Yeah.
do that.
I think from what I understand, the council consensus is to remove it. Mr. Manager, could you have it with me? Yes, sir. Any other additions to the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second? Mr. Allen.
Aye.
Mr. Allen.
Aye.
Mr. Moon.
Aye.
Mr. Serby. Ms. Ferguson.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for the March 9th, 2019 special meeting?
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Mr. Allen.
Aye.
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 Mr. Lane.
Aye.
Mr. Serby. Ms. Ferguson.
Aye.
Ms. Schiff.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Council announcements. Mr. Alger.
Nothing at 5.
Mr. Wright.
Nothing at this time either.
Mr. Lynn.
Nothing at time, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Serby. Ms. Ferguson.
I don't see Mr. Turner in the crowd. I'm assuming he was up there, he would have said something, but the school is presenting its budget
Okay, very good. What time is it? Where?
6 o'clock. At the school board office.
up there?
Okay, the school board is presenting its budget. The school board has to present its budget by the end of March, and they have their budget together, and they're presenting it at the school board office at 6 o'clock tomorrow.
Ms. Schiff?
I just wanted to let members and council and the audience know that I attended a seminar yesterday in Petersburg on behalf of the town called Intro to Small Development Movement. And it was about an alliance that has been created between the Department of Housing and Community Development and the Virginia Department of the Housing Authority. And it was all about how to develop sustainably in downtown regions, and it was very helpful, and hopefully we're going to get them to come present to us and go farther with it. So it was really excellent and well worth it, and there will be more follow-up to come, sort of let people know there was movement on that.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, Saturday, I think we celebrate St. Patrick's Day in the town. There was a lot of green in town, and it looked like a big turnout. So it looks like if it's sunny days, we're gonna have a good turnout tonight, so we're looking forward to a great season, great summer. Yes, sir.
It's not meant to,
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to do it, I might.
We want to be under additions to the agenda.
I know we've done a lot of this before, just didn't know if you thought that.
Yeah.
Because those our presentations are going to come along.
Correct, okay. Is it council's pleasure to adjust this agenda to move to the public hearing on the Peters first, before we do presentations? So we'll move over to new business, item 11. And under new business, we'll start with public hearing. Resolution number 17-19, the intent to lease town and waterfront property to individuals for the construction and/or maintenance of docks and piers. It's in tab D of the books. Is there any discussion before I open the public hearing on council?
But I just wanted a clarification. This is only just to the point, Beach Avenue is not included in the select over on the number three section. We haven't got a tax ID yet.
That's correct. Hello? Hello? That is correct. That's correct. Beach Avenue does have a tax ID number now and will be advertised for the April 2019 town council meeting.
Just want to make sure we have, other, we know which one we were at for tonight.
The map that is attached to the that's with the resolution shows the areas that are included in this public hearing.
So I don't see Beach Avenue on that.
That's correct. She said that we finally get the tax ID now and we'll be in April and we'll work through that.
Oh, page 2 has,
Yeah, that's just going back up to the,
all right, so we're good now. Then we have to amend that. We'll come back to that. So, good.
And the actual lease, sorry, the lease that we had some edits on, it's finalized or no?
The lease is, the public hearing is for the lease of the property. The next resolution in the next tab is for the lease agreement.
Got it, sorry, I didn't see the next time.
As a clarification, the lease is, the council would ask for a standard lease so that you could approve the lease agreement and town manager could execute it without coming back to council. But this lease agreement was drawn up for persons who own property on one side of the road and want to lease for dock on the other side of the road. If there are other situations, we will have to revise the lease and council have to approve this lease.
Okay,
But you
so
don't have to have a public.
for unique situations, will be fine. Okay. And the other things that we talked about are already included in there. Okay, sorry.
Okay, then, the public hearing is now open for public input. And first on the citizen input hearing list is Heather Schrader.
Good evening. I just had a few questions as a homeowner on Monroe Bay Avenue regarding the proposed resolutions. Can the town council define for us what they consider to be a maintained dock?
Good question. Who wants to answer that? I saw what was written.
well, I know that the last ordinance was named on the building, but the officials judge in that section?
The code of Colonial Beach, Westmoreland
No,
County, the
building.
state,
State building.
statewide code.
And then it's not hazardous.
Okay. And who will enforce the code on the docks?
The connection to town property is enforced by our zoning administrator, but the rest of your dock is enforced by the VMRC. Is that right?
As far as the permitting portions of it,
Yeah,
yes, but I
no,
think as far as determining whether they're up to snuff up to the code or the lease, I think our building official and or the most enforcement officer would have.
So I guess not specific to the permitting, because I've been through that process when we added on, but specific to the maintenance enforcement of the pier. Who is authorized by the town to enforce that and come onto the dock as it's proposed here?
I think it's probably going to be the enforcement board, so we'll be.
There are two entities that have enforcement power.
Yep.
One is the building official from Westmoreland County. The other one is the town property maintenance official who uses Part 3 of the statewide building code, and she has the authority to enforce and is actually currently doing that. VMRC is the third entity that can enforce the condition of docks.
Okay. Well, with all due respect, there's been a dock sitting between the 900 and the 1,000 block of Monroe Avenue that's been in the bay for over 5 years. So clearly, we're not enforcing. Right? So I maintain my dock, as do my neighbors. So it's a little insulting as a homeowner who maintains it and currently insures it to see something in that condition. And it leaves me a little skeptical when we say that's the person that's going to enforce this. They're not enforcing anything.
Are you talking about Salisbury?
Yes,
We just took possession of Salisbury a year or so ago,
okay,
and you're correct, and it's in the process of an RFP to be removed completely from the bay, as
Okay.
is the dilapidated one on First Street
yep,
as well. But our process is a little bit slow, as is this process of getting to the point where we're releasing these things. So it's going to be an adjustment for all of us. And,
Sure.
And we're going to have a learning curve in this as well. I don't foresee anybody really going out on your dock at any given time to do anything. But I just read it a little while ago, but I can't really put my finger right on it. But in
Right.
here
It
somewhere
actually
says
says
that
that.
it will be kept free or.
it does
It
say
says
that,
that.
that we are
Any
giving you
employee
and
or
your
agent
agents
of the town
the right
can
to
come
come on.
onto my dock at any point in
Yeah,
time.
Yeah, that's typical.
That would be correct.
That's
And that would be the part, because you're attached to the town property. And it just says to be kept free and clear, I believe, of trash and debris and things like that. And it was,
But
It's safe.
Maintain the safety.
well, it says maintain, that's why I asked what defines maintain.
This is just, there's a liability issue for the town as well,
Sure.
obviously, so.
Well, I currently insure it, so it's not
I
a big
know.
deal on the
I
insurance piece.
understand that.
But I guess my only concern is, with all due respect to everyone in the room, is that we're not maintaining other things in the town from a
Couldn't
code
agree more.
enforcement standpoint.
Right.
So if we're gonna hone in on the docks, it needs to be a global, let's enforce everything. Because
Yeah.
as a homeowner and taxpayer, it's not consistent.
Right.
And that's frustrating.
And I agree with you, Heather. And
Okay.
as far as the docks go, the two docks that we're certainly responsible for,
Mhm.
and are obviously a huge eyesore
Yeah.
and a detriment and a liability to the town, are in the process of being removed.
Okay.
As we speak.
All right, thank you.
We have another one that's in private ownership that is going to court for the maintenance of it, and they're in the pending court action, but they are starting to improve that dock.
Okay. All right, so, thank you. And next is Robert Numa. Hope I said that correctly.
Oh. No, we just thought we were signing in.
Oh, okay, no
But-
problem.
but
Do you want
I-
to speak at all,
I would
Vicki, or
agree,
or
sure.
Bob?
Hi, I'm Vicki Paulson, and I live on 320 Nelson, and right there at the corner on Monroe Bay. And Heather basically covered all of our concerns. It's mainly trying to understand what we're trying to accomplish here. How long is this process going to take? I'm personally impacted by it right now, and in talking to the folks down at VMRC, they indicated to me that my only holdup in getting done what I want to get done will be the town of Colonial Beach at this juncture. So I want to know how long this process is going to take, because I want to get my boat in the water.
Right. Okay. Have you submitted your,
I'm in the process of it right now, but what they've told me is until this gets resolved, that we would be at a standstill. Is that not correct?
That is correct. BMRC will not sign any permits until there is a lease that can be approved.
So how long will that take? Because that's not fair to us that are waiting.
yeah, hopefully tonight, this,
Yeah, I don't know how many other folks in this room are in the same
yeah,
situation,
that's, we're trying to, yeah.
Yeah. in the same wannabe boat.
She's, they're on the corner of Monroe Bay.
Is the address Nelson or Monroe?
It's because our mailbox is on Nelson, that's our address, yes. But we face Monroe, yeah.
Okay, I mean, all I can tell you is that we're hoping to wrap this thing up tonight. We've been wrestling with this for a very long time. It was something, we didn't start this, it had already been in effect for multiple years. Unfortunately, it had kind of not been followed through with the way it was supposed to have been. When we readdressed it for all the necessary reasons, this is the point we've come to.
Has there ever been any consideration to sell that parcel to the homeowner? I mean, we are already taking care of it. Many of our neighbors have landscaped it, for God's sakes. So, I mean,
Yeah.
is that an option? I mean, because if
We wrestled
they're
with
trying
that
to
for-
raise revenue,
The problem, especially on Monroe Bay Avenue, well, even on Urban Avenue, is most of those are actually parts of the right of way to the road. So we cannot sell road right of way. And most of those cases are very close to the right of way of the street. So it would impede potential for improvements of roads and stuff.
so if that's owned by the town, should the town not then maintain that property, or should the homeowner? Because we pay to have it mowed, again, my neighbors have theirs landscaped, should they not, I mean, it seems silly, should the town not do that? Because who's responsible if there's an injury in the course of maintaining that?
I won't speak on behalf of this council, but I believe our thought process was in the past, the previous council who approved the lease process rather than the sale process of this was that you have a structure attached to town property that is a benefit for you and is improved to your property. And the town is responsible and liable for the part up to it. And so we had to, consistent with what was already in place, which was an annual cost to do that, which just hadn't been followed. It was followed for several years, and it was partially followed. So if there was 100 people involved, 30 of them paid for it, the other 70 didn't, okay? Those are just numbers I'm throwing out there. And so that's how we ended up to where we are today, and this has been going on for 2 years, maybe longer, I think.
Therein is my concern.
So,
Yeah, this is the public hearing to approve it right now.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna hope that it gets approved.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
and in this, the terms are the extensions of your lot line. When you sign a lease with us, you are maintaining the extension of your lot line in order to have the pier. So continue to mow, please.
We're okay.
Thank you.
Can we bill you for that? Try it anyway. Other question is, if we're paying $250 extra, if erosion occurs... Oh, Robert Muma, live on Nelson, also with her better half. But if erosion occurs, who is the one that's going to replace that?
you're responsible for erosion control right around your dock right there.
Even though it's your property,
It's
town
town
property?
property.
You're leasing it, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
And, okay.
yeah.
The shoreline.
Yeah, it's,
Okay. Just
Yeah.
that.
Okay. John and Tara Lamb, Teresa Lamb.
Hi, I'm Teresa Lamb. I think everybody's pretty much covered everything. I guess I just kind of want to understand what the $250 is for. Because you're not maintaining it, you're not doing anything for the
For the
erosion.
town of Pomona Beach.
Wow.
To enforce the lease, in order to write the paperwork, to pay the attorney, to track
You know what, I
people
can
down,
save you
to collect the bills.
$250.
Right, I get it.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
okay, I mean, I understand how you feel about it, and I'm glad we're having this public hearing. And it's important that I think there's two sides to this as well. The town has a liability for having those piers there. It's an improvement for your benefit, okay? And when somebody comes and they want to fill a pier, put a lift in, or whatever they want to do, to have access to the water and enjoy their property at a greater ability, this is a process that we've come up with, and there's a $250 per year cost to be part of that.
It was off.
It was 500, we lowered it
It was
to
100.
years ago.
And not
Right.
enforced because
2 years ago.
$100 wouldn't cover the cost of enforcing.
Yeah,
We've already established we're not enforcing it.
okay, thank you. Walter Kern, did you?
At the last meeting we had, I discussed several pier situations. The one that I was referring to is not on Salisbury, but it's at the end of Ball Street and Monroe Bay Avenue. The person that had that pier built, he's been passed away for probably 8 years. And when you talk about construction, what is going on with the town pier itself? It's been damaged, and there's been no talk about getting it fixed up or repairing it. And the pier that's on Salisbury, a family took over the house that Alberta Parkinson lived in, and they want to make arrangements to tear the pier down and build a new one. The town says no. There could be a reason. Thank you.
Okay, I'll answer your question real quick, Walter, on the town pier. That's also in the process of an RFP to be repaired right now. So,
Thank you.
yes, sir.
Okay, the one on Celebrate, I've got Alberta and Walter's place, and we're not connected with that in any way, shape, or form. I've already been approved for the pier through the DMRC. That's, got a stake there for it, that's on the other side of that pier right at Celebrate. The Parkinson's had nothing to do with that one, so.
Thank you. John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of council. I've read the regulation and it doesn't apply to me. But I want to tell you why it doesn't, because some of you may not be aware of this, but some of us have 40-year leases. Let me explain. In the mid-90s, there were rumors the property would be sold, marinas were going in. So a number of the lot owners sued the town to keep the old KISS trust in place. Well, that lasted about 2 years. We lost, cost the town over $100,000. But there was an election at that time, and guess who ended up on council? 4 of the lot members, including me. So we decided we're not going to go through this again. So we wrote a pier ordinance that said basically that people that lived in front of the water could apply to lease the land for 40 years. But there were stringent considerations. One, We had to get all the permits at our expense, which we did. Town had to approve it, of course. We had to riprap, quality riprap. We could go over the edges by 10 or 15 feet, to cover the edge so the erosion didn't get it. We had to maintain that riprap for 40 years, and we had to do all kinds of other things. Now, why would anyone in their right mind do that? Because the town, in the lease, promised that they would not increase our pier fees, charge us any fees, or basically mess with us, lease the land or sell it. So, we applied, it was advertised in the Journal and the Westmoreland News. We put in sealed bids. The council opened the sealed bids. There's a resolution here where they accepted the sealed bid, and we got a 40-year lease. Now, mine expires in 2038, and I've totally complied with it. And there are, I think, 6 or 7 other people who complied with it also. So I realize you could take us to court and cancel the lease, but I don't think you'd do that. But I just want you to be aware that some of us spent a lot of money. I spent the equivalent of $30,000, today, because I have a rather wide lot, to get this assurance that I wouldn't go through this again, and I'm praying that I won't go through it again.
John, did you bring an extra copy of the lease with you?
I can sit down with the town attorney and go over it, yes.
Is that okay with you?
But we all have them. I think we rip-wrapped about 750 feet of the road, and if you know where I live,
Yeah.
it hasn't moved an inch.
Right.
But if you go down where they didn't rip-wrap, it's 3 or 4 feet from the road, so I mean, we acted in good faith.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll let you and the lawyer.
That's all I ask.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
very
Mayor.
much for bringing that to our attention. Thank you. Gary, Seaver? Mr. Councilman?
It takes about 4 months to go through the process, so you aren't getting your boat in order this summer. Council, Mayor, Council, distinguished members of the town. I've got a couple of problems with the ordinance itself. In paragraph 4, it talks about right of access to the pier. That's private property. Having sat up there before, trying to get people to clean up their yards, do something with their cars, took 2 years of court time to get that done. Okay. I don't think you have the right to go on my pier, number one. I remember that you couldn't go in a lot to look at somebody's car. If your car was in the front of the house with no license plate, you could send them a ticket. But you weren't allowed to go in the yard. If my carport gets busted up in a storm, I don't think the town has the right to come to my property and inspect my busted carport. Okay. The town owns the rocks. You have leased to me the top of those rocks. That's all. Paragraph 5. It says, if I sell my house with a pier, I have to come to the town to get, the new people have to come to the town to get permission to get that lease. That's garbage. The homeowner should have the right to transfer the lease. Otherwise, you may never sell another piece of property on the water. There should be a requirement for the homeowner to notify the town that it's been transferred. You have, and I'm sure that lawyers would love this, you've got no right to prevent somebody from selling that pier with that house. You have to go back to the town. That would never stand up. That's ridiculous. Back in the good old days, the Reno had a 1-inch gap in their pier to get around the gambling laws. So if I go to my pier and put a 1-inch gap in it, cutting it off from the town, I save myself real estate taxes, and then you damn well better not go on that pier. So, I'm just saying, I think you need to really think about the stuff that you think you have the right to do. Because I don't think you do. The liability issue, paragraph 6. The town has no liability on my pier. The town owns the rocks and has liability. Since people can't get it, if they sit next to my pier or fall on the rocks, then you've got liability. If they go out on my pier and fall down and get hurt, they're gonna sue me, not the town of Point Beach. And I do have liability insurance, goes to my homeowners. And that's my choice on how much liability. You don't have any control over that, you're not liable for it either. In general, the town is leasing approximately 10 feet by 20 feet of shoreline to the pier owner. Shore property is open to use by anyone from anywhere. As in, the charter and all that good stuff. So I can go on the rocks anytime I want to. Anybody else can go on the rocks next to my pier anytime they want to. You have to excuse me, otherwise I get the more shake. Town is actually leasing the right to me to prevent use by others of those rocks. That's really what you're leasing. You allowed me to use those to prevent somebody else going up the rocks. No one gets charged to use the beach, or staying on the rocks, or fishing the rocks. So I have the right to those rocks too. Real estate tax. I got a copy of my sheet. After talking to the county, my pier cost $48,000 when it was put in. It's right now valued, assessed value, by the real estate people at $13,200. So I pay, and if I figure over 11 years, if I kind of average it out, it's down to $13,200 now. It's been about worth $20,000 on the average. It's about 60 cents a year on the average. It's higher now, it was lower before. I pay $120 a year as it is right now in real estate taxes to the town of Point Beach. Somebody who just put in a new pier, that could be $50,000, is paying right now $50 a year to the town of Point Beach. I mean, you're already getting money for it. The piers also provide entertainment value. We're always worried about something for kids to do. Drive by my pier any weekend in the summer and see how many teenagers or young people are on that pier. Okay, so I'm providing service to the town. The town recently chose to forego selling Eleanor Trailer Park, which was close to $1 million for the land, and with a build out, it would be well over $1 million. That's $7,000 a year in real estate tax you didn't need to keep a piece of open, unused, probably never to be used piece of property. You also chose to forego the real estate tax on a water tower property, which, since it's being used for a public use for entertaining young people, young adults, that doesn't bother me too much. In summary, the town provides nothing to the pier owner. There's no requirement in my lease that I have that says I have to take care of the rocks. I have to give the state a bond, the road dudes, so that, because they don't put in the rocks. And if I screwed them up when they put the pier in, I'd have a bond to put the rocks back where they were, which I did, and they're put back, and that's fine. But, you don't now, never have, and never will own that pier. You own the rocks underneath it. Liability's mine, and I'm sure I would stand up in court. As far as taking care of those rocks, that remains your problem. If somebody on the bay side has agreed to take care of that property, that's fine. Just because their pier goes across that 10-foot wide piece, doesn't mean those owners have to take care of that property. And that is not in the lease that you're giving them now. So that's garbage. The town should take care of that property. And if they're doing it for you, and you're going to charge them $350 a year, $250 a year, and they're spending their money to take care of your property already, that doesn't make any sense to me. Plus, I think the lease amounts probably do mention because we're paying real estate tax on top of it. Thank you for your wonderful time.
Thank you, Peter.
Justin Bell?
Evening, Council, Mayor. I think John kind of went over everything I needed to go over. I was concerned about in 2014, I got a shoreline maintenance agreement from the town for a 40-year lease, and I just haven't heard or, seen that come back up. So I just wanted to see where we were at with this, and hoping maybe you guys could give us some insight, but it sounds like maybe we need to speak more with the attorney about that. So that's all I really have right now. Thank you.
Terry Gaston,
Copies of my remarks. There's one per person.
Hi, Terry Gasterland, 1317 Irving Avenue. I'm here this evening representing my family. My father, Douglas Gasterland, has spent time here in Colonial Beach since 1938, and he's been full-time for the past decade. We are worried about this draft lease, and I will tell you why. First, piers replace beach access to the river, and piers add to our property value. In 2012, we made a large investment in our pier at 1317 Irving. The pier provides invaluable access to the river that our property has historically enjoyed. This is true for every riverfront pier, and piers are critical to our property value. So our concern number one is that the new lease terms will diminish property value. Renewability of the lease is omitted, transfer is precluded. This creates a risk for any buyer of the property with a pier, and in fact, it creates a liability, given that a lease may not be replaced potentially. Concern number two, town costs may exceed revenues in this program. For example, if you have 20 piers with leases, total lease revenue would be small, $5,000 a year at $250 each. Town costs will include staff and attorney time to survey the land to be leased, execute and manage contracts, bill, collect, and audit the entire program. Concern number three, our pier is currently permitted with renewal and transfer rights. The draft lease would remove these rights. Our pier is 70% in Maryland. Virginia starts below mean tide line. Our pier was fully permitted when constructed, including a $500 town building permit, and we have a current pier permit. And I brought it. It's right here. Concern four, leased land should be surveyed. Before leasing the town's land, you should be surveying it with markers. The survey would become an attachment to your lease contract. There's no mention of this at all. So this lists our most important concerns. We have others. But I'd rather spend my remaining time on considering an alternative. You can work to add piers to the basis value of each property with a pier. You can collect property taxes on the increased basis. The town receives right now 80 cents on the $100 of assessed value annually. A pier valued at $30,000 would thus generate property tax revenue of $240 per year. So get the piers recorded as improvements to the property, and you've got your $240 a year. So benefits to this approach, no extra town staff time needed. Taxes are deductible from our income taxes, and the pier value adds to the property value in a tangible way. And my last remark is that it appears from the draft lease the town attorney has not yet reviewed it. It has spelling errors, inconsistencies, ambiguities, and omissions that I won't go into here. Do you have questions for me? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
that's it for the public.
And,
Yeah,
can I say a word?
Yeah.
Please, thank you.
Joe Kelly, I live at 413 Word Street, below some of my friends that I know here. I looked at the document and I had a couple of technical items just to review with you, bring to your attention. Under Exhibit D, or Tab D, there's a map that shows covered area. It's Insert 3A, Part 1. The orange line on Monroe Bay Avenue should stop at the corner of Word Street and Monroe Bay Avenue. Word Street's not on Monroe Bay Avenue. If you correct that, that would be good. 2, under tab E, I noticed that the document doesn't include any renewal provisions. I do long-term leases for a living and negotiate them, and to see 1, 2, or 3 options in there would be pretty good. You lay out the terms on a renewal. For example, town's going to inspect the dock. Town's going to do this, that, or the other thing. But to have some kind of renewal policy posture in here
for anybody that goes down the road a couple of years and sells their property, that you cannot renew that. Yes, it's already in your document, a framework for a renewal. Next is, will the town bill you on an annual basis? I've had a lease for, she's going on 20 years now, yet to receive one bill. We paid, because once a year, I remember every 5 years, I'd send in a check for 5 and take care of it. The document leaves something to be desired in terms of good guidance on that. Technical small things like prorations on first year rent, that's a technical thing that I tend to deal with. I agree with some comments that Mr. Seaver made on our section 5. For me to transfer a lease, there's a document that normally happens in this arena. In my world, it's called an assignment of a lease, where you can amend and restate the lease. You could do something, a legal document that's generally approved in advance on the framework for it, so that if you go to sell a house, you'll know what the document is. The real estate brokers can say, yes, this lease can be assigned. Here's the document the town's pre-approved to make this happen. Right now, we have a problem in that language. Paragraph 6 deals with insurance. It seems to indicate we should go out and get a separate policy. And I think someone mentioned it's a homeowner's policy. My homeowner's policy provides for $1 million worth of liability coverage, and I have the town named as additional insured. And it's easy to do, and we generally provide a copy to the town every year to meet our requirements for our lease. Then I looked at the next part I have is if there's a problem. In my arena, when I deal with stuff, there's things called notice and cure periods. You have 30 calendar days, 30 business days. What do you do if you cure? So there's some needs on this. And then finally, I will tell you on the lease document itself, the 1, 2, 3rd whereas, it should say Monroe Bay Avenue on there too, and it doesn't. It seems to have been omitted. I'll be glad to help anybody with it. Yes.
Your pier comes off your right here on the property, right?
No.
It comes off the water tower?
Yes.
Because I know you are actually a waterfront.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mayor, can I just make one quick comment? The lady that talked about the town getting the pier added on, I guarantee when the assessors come and look at that pier across from your property, it's already on your property card. You can go to the Westmoreland County website, look at your property card, and it will show you what the value of the pier is. I've got mine right here. Just right on there, it's got a pier, $52. Yes, no.
Is that it for yes, ma'am?
Hello, Marcia Feldman, 1605 Beach Avenue. I don't have a pier. I'm glad all the rest of you do. But my question is, you're saying that the area between my street and the waterfront is owned by the town. They have not maintained the property where I live all along Beach Avenue since I've been there and before. So I don't understand if it is your responsibility to be maintaining it, should I be having you guys come and mow it? Or do it's not mine, I don't have a pier.
Right. I think that same question's been addressed.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I think that same question has been addressed multiple times in jurisdictions where, like out to the mailbox of your house, some of that is right away and some of that is owned by a state or a town or local government. And people tend to maintain that themselves rather than let the grass grow tall or whatever. So.
Okay,
Not everybody is maintaining.
I'm sorry?
There's plenty of spots in town across that are not being maintained by the homeowners. It just depends on the homeowner.
Right, my neighbors, most of the people on both sides of me have piers. So they take care of theirs and they're very nice. I don't have any grass there. There's just a bunch of weeds growing where I can't get. So, it's down.
The point I'm trying to make is
So, I
A
mean,
lot of homes, where your mailbox sits. a lot
my
of-
mailbox is on my
I'm
side.
just saying, a lot of homes, a lot of areas, including Colonial Beach, is not owned by the homeowner, it's owned by the towns. But homeowners tend to take care of them themselves, just like I do mine, for all my properties. It's just, I can't answer why it is, I just
Well, I
think it's
guess what I'm saying
customary.
to you is are you gonna start charging me because I'm not taking care of that property? Because I'm not. I mean, I planted a couple of grasses.
Yeah, I can't answer that. No.
All right, then that's all I had to ask.
Thank you. John?
This may be crazy, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Obviously, it would be nice if the town would get out of the land business, have the property appraised, and just sell it to the people, and then tax them on it. And the way to do that might be to grant them an access to their pier and riparian rights. So now their pier is sitting on their easement. Then have it appraised, put it out for bid. Minimum, the appraised value. Now, who is gonna bid on that property? If I own the pier and I have an easement to it, you're gonna buy it and maintain the riprap and the grass and all that? You get nothing out of it. There has to be a way for the town to sell the property and get out of the business and get the property, that's just waterfront property. Just a suggestion, there's gotta be a way. When we looked at this thing, we got 10 reasons why we couldn't do it, so we had to find one reason we could, and we did. Thank you.
I'll just speak on what I know about it. This is a conversation we've had, several of us has had for a few years. There was intent of some of us we wanted to sell it, to get out of that for this reason. We didn't want to have to deal with leases, we didn't want to have to hunt people down, we didn't want to go through the whole thing. We were advised by the previous attorney that it was something that we couldn't do, shouldn't do, and that the lease was the best way to go. And in the course of at least the 5 years I've been on here on the council, this is where it's evolved to tonight, is where we sit right now. This is where we are. So in this public hearing, this is why we're having this conversation. I can ask, yeah, sure. That's it for everybody.
Sorry, I have
Yes,
one more
ma'am.
question. Hasn't the town sold property in that same type of scenario to other people? I believe that Bill Deller bought the property next to him.
It's
That's at the
adjacent
end.
property, not across the street, that's the difference.
But isn't it still part of that whole process that you were talking about, that it's kind of an easement of the town and the street?
Well, those were road extensions that would never be put through. And the being that they share the property line with certain individuals, those were able to be sold.
Okay, the public hearing speaking part is closed. It's moving to council action.
Make it more than a 5-year lease.
Is there a, motion first and then second on discussion? Is there?
We're just on tab D, is that correct? Right
Yes.
now, we are just on tab D,
Yeah.
not tab
Correct.
E.
No, yes, it
So we
is.
will discuss the lease on tab E.
Right.
I'm sorry, did everybody hear that in the audience? We are on tab D. We will only be discussing right now the resolution for the intent to lease. And then, after that discussion is closed, we will go to E, which is indeed the actual lease. So,
Is there a motion to, I'm gonna read this, to approve the resolution 17-19, the intent to lease town-owned waterfront properties to individuals? Is there a
Second.
Mr. Allen?
We're not
No,
voting.
we're discussing.
I'm sorry, okay, right. Is it okay? I still have to get approved for that, and then it goes to discussion.
No, you gotta do
we
discussion.
discuss it and then
Okay,
we
sorry.
vote.
Okay, call for discussion, thank you.
A couple things. I did want to clarify exactly what Robin said. I mean, this is just an intent to go ahead and be able to lease so that we can get something moving. Just a number of the issues that were brought up by everybody are well noted. I think that some of us have already thought about those. There's a lot that's wrong with, well, there's a lot of issues the lease doesn't cover. There's a lot of history or a lot of existing piers. And if we can get past this hurdle right now so that we can start dealing with people one-on-one about the issues that they may have specific to their pier, then we can deal with it in more of a one-on-one situation. But we've got to get past the issue of being able to lease the land first. Now, one thing I do want to point out, in certain cases, primarily on Monroe Bay Avenue, there's property that private property owners own that's adjacent to town property. The private property owners have riparian rights with the extensions of their property lines. And that affects a lot of people who may want to put a pier out off of public land and a lease. Because even though everybody would think that the property lines are 90 degrees to the water, they're not, in a lot of cases. And there's a lot of piers in between Lafayette and Wirt Street that have intersecting riparian rights issues. And from what I understand with BMRC, they give first refusal basically to the property owner instead of a leasehold for a pier off of public property. So, and there are issues right now already between certain homeowners on piers where they're crisscrossing riparian rights. So I think it's very important and that you make sure that you get the extension of the property lines, not just from your own neighbor, but some cases 2 or 3 down, because they do come across at an angle and actually cut off the riparian rights. And there's a lot of issues already in place right now in the town with piers that are crisscrossing that.
That's really a BMRC thing, though.
But BMRC is one that's coming back. I'd hate to see us issue a permit and BMRC issue a permit, they build the pier, and then your neighbor complains and comes back and realizes that nobody looked at the riparian rights and the extension of the private property lines, because that's what's happening now. It's piers that have already been built that are getting complaints because they're crisscrossing other people's riparian rights. So just because there's a lease does not mean it's going to work.
That's more of a civil matter for
Yeah, but I mean, you know, the town has issued leases before on piers that they had no right to do it on because nobody's done their homework. The one pier next to Stanford's Marina, a little pier there. The town issued a permit to these people. They paid to build a pier, they paid leases, they paid insurance, and lo and behold, when Stanford Marina sold, they found out that Stanford owned the pier. And those people didn't, and they lost it. So there are issues that you really need to look very closely at.
I just have one thing that when we refer to these maps, that on insert 3A part 1, and I think one of the public comments also referred to this. Yeah, is that, yeah, I guess it is. Yeah. And lot 6, is it labeled right there? It stops there. So anyway, this map needs to be, I'm gonna bring it over to you. I just kind of, because it's just highlighted and not drawn out, I just want to make sure that it's there.
And the 3 lots there off the Wirt Street, there would be a gap in the orange.
Yeah, but lot should be right, like, should it just stop right there? It doesn't go all the way around that.
Well, I mean, we never
that's-
discussed the intent of leasing the land around the water tower, and that's what
No,
lot 6 is.
That's not the,
That's
that's the Robin Grove.
Now, see, the lots,
Yeah, it should just
1,
stop here.
1, 3, and 3A are waterfront lots, and they have their own,
I think it should just stop
It
it.
should stop.
It should just stop.
Madam Vice Mayor, this was only in your packet. We did not advertise the map, we advertised the description, and so it was to try to give the council an idea
Got
of.
it. Okay, so the public hearing and the resolution can go with the amended highlighted area.
Excellent. Yes.
I just want to make sure that that got changed so that.
Yes, thank you, I will.
And that's the only thing I had about this resolution. I thank God that this thing may come to an end one day.
Well, again, I think that, we want to get the ball rolling. We know we definitely have issues with the lease, but I think our intent to get the ball rolling is by having a public hearing and move forward. Granted, we may have to deal with a lot of individual issues, but I think we need to move forward with the intent. Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, next, resolution 18-19 approves a lease agreement for town-owned waterfront property to individuals for the construction and/or maintenance of dock piers. So that E. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
We need to play the tape from everybody says this. So we got some issues we've got to work with. Let me ask a question now. And Jim, can we approve this lease knowing that we have to amend it for certain cases, for certain individuals, so that we have at least something to start with? Is there something that we can maybe footnote on this lease here that says, this is a basis and will need to be amended on a case-by-case basis possibly? Is there anything we can do so that we can get the ball rolling, but still leave the lease open for some of the issues that certain property owners are going to have? Basically, to negotiate the lease agreement.
Well, the short answer to that is yes. Okay. The long answer to that is that what I was charged with coming up with some draft document, some basic document for leasing property that could be administratively approved. That would not have to come back to you. And this is what I came up with. Now, we can certainly take this lease agreement, prove it as a form, okay, and then make the adjustments as needed on an individual basis. But those individual leases will not for public hearing, but they will need to come back to you for approval.
I think there are amendments that need to happen at our level, and I hate to continue this discussion, but there were several things that were brought up in public hearing that I will need to get addressed.
That's why you have a public hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've addressed or discussed this matter before, and I think the gentleman who talked about getting a 40-year lease exactly explained the process if we do more than 5 years. It has to go out to bid and all those issues.
Right, you gave us the code on that.
Right, that's why the lease is a 5-year lease with no further extension. But that doesn't mean at the end of 5 years, council can't extend it again and keep extending it. But under the state code, we're pretty much stuck with a 5-year provision unless we do put it out to bid and go through that whole process. And that's just what the General Assembly put in the statute. You didn't write it, I didn't write it. And I think one of the misunderstandings perhaps is this lease provides for the rental of property, real estate. Okay? We're not leasing a dock, we're leasing a parcel of real estate upon which a person can build a dock. That real estate belongs to the town. Okay? And therefore, it's like any other parcel of town real estate that we would be leasing to anybody. There are certain criteria and certain protections, such as the insurance and things like that, that I felt was important for the town to have, because it's still town property at the end of the day, and it's just simply leased to an individual upon which to build a dock. We're not leasing a dock, we're leasing a parcel of real estate.
Leasing access to the dock that starts at mean level water.
We're actually leasing a parcel of real estate.
Right. Now, on the access issue, the past has always required, and the insurance companies that everybody goes to get insurance for their dock requires that we put a locked gate at the mean level water line so that people cannot go out on the water. And so we've got a lot of contradictions.
Yeah, and I've thought about whether or not we should have in the lease agreement, a right of public transport. In other words, that the public can walk across it. I didn't think that was good for several reasons, including insurance, including individuals that don't want property owners who built the docks, don't want people walking on. Because this, once we lease it, it's their property to care for and insure.
So like I said, access is a problem. If you all want to have free access, they're going to have to make appointments because they're going to be locked gates on the piers in order to meet the insurance laws.
So that's up to the property, the insurance company.
See, it used to be in our ordinance that was required.
Well, there's a long history here, a long history. And what I understood council wanted was to, as much as possible, start fresh. And to start with everybody on the same page, everybody under the same terms and conditions, so that there was no opportunity for favoritism or anything like that. It was a standard lease agreement. That's what I tried to draft. Now, I'm perfectly happy to make whatever changes council wants. That's not a problem.
I got a couple of questions. From the basics of this, are we required to mandate that we either have a lease or that we sell the property or that they insure it? Let's say that we didn't want to collect any revenue from these docks at all. All right, let's just say we allow wholesale. Anybody wants to build a dock in front of their property, they go out and they build it, and we just don't do anything at all. How are we liable? How are we affected?
It's town property. And
To mean low water line.
Yeah.
They're out, it's not.
right, I understand that, but to
That's
get
a
there,
liability issue.
to get there,
That's right.
it's your property, and it would be no different than if you, I mean, having a public park is one thing, but having a parcel of real estate, as an individual property owner, these people all know there are liability issues, and if you just simply said, and there's also the issue of who gets to build a dock where. This calls for the property, the person who wants to lease the property to draw up a survey that the property he's going to lease, so that you know what he is leasing, and he knows what he is leasing, and it's fixed. Whereas just to let, now you can change the terms of the lease, and you can also reduce, charge a dollar. That's up to y'all. But it just, you have to, it's your property, and you have to protect in my opinion, you have to protect the town in the control of your property.
There's also one other issue, and that is that VMRC is not allowing any more construction of piers unless there is a lease in place.
Right. Okay, question 2 is there anything in what you've heard or what you've read or what you've heard from the public input tonight to stop us from your legal opinion,
Well,
your sense of voting on that?
other than the term of the lease, which I think is a legal issue, the rest of these are really within your discretion. My legal advice is that you should have requirement of insurance to protect the town. My legal advice is that you should require the person who wants to lease the property to actually have a survey so they know what you're leasing and what they're leasing. The rest of it, we can adjust. We can use this as a form, as a go-by, and then if a property owner wants to lease a parcel of real estate, they have a problem with the term and condition, we could negotiate that and bring it back to council for approval. I mean, I'm not opposed to that. However you want to handle it. You're asking the person who drew the lease up if they see anything wrong with it, and the answer is no.
Well, of course, after what you've heard, though, I mean, is there anything that would preclude us from, you feel, from a legal standpoint, being able to vote on this and to move forward are we going to be tying up administration that much longer by having to deal with each individual person? I know there's going to be some of that anyway with having a survey and things like that. It's going to create some of that, but to what extent? We were hoping to limit that as well. We were hoping to make this a little more seamless and smooth.
Yeah, and you could certainly, and this is council's property, this is town property under control of council. So if you want to do individual leases with different terms and conditions, that's up to you. If you want to have a form lease, and if you adjust this lease for whatever adjustments you feel are appropriate, that's certainly up to you too. I was trying to fill my mandate that you asked me to.
Can I have some specific questions? Okay, so I want to there's just a couple of things that were brought up that are very specific to
Okay.
this copy of the lease. I'm going to start at the top and just work down. The first thing is that I think some people in the public maybe miss the concept of the fact that there is going to be a tax map parcel number associated with this, and that this is not the tax map parcel number of their house.
Right.
That this is indeed a new tax map parcel number that you are getting surveyed, and that you are filling in the blank there. And
Well-
so I want to make sure we get,
Well, that's really a Commissioner Revenue question.
Right.
They have combined
oh,
occasionally,
well, but because it's a leased property and not owned by them, I think it will have to have its own tax
probably,
map
but that's a
number.
Commissioner Revenue.
Right. And it would probably be like 12C, 3, 4,
And-
B.
It issued on.
And let me also point out that there's no requirement in this lease agreement that they build a dock.
Oh, I agree,
Yeah.
right. And actually, I think you're right, they have Ps at the end of them, the tax map parcel numbers. Yeah, I've seen them in the tax map. Okay, so we just need to make sure we have an peer instructions in building and zoning that outline step one, if you live on one of these properties, step one is to do this, step two is to do that. Because I think there's some confusion out there.
Well, yeah, we discussed the need for a peer ordinance, since the peer ordinance was originally eliminated, and everybody kept saying that it was all gonna get covered in the lease. But I think it's absolutely critical that we develop an ordinance, get the balls rolling.
I just
but we
need an
still need
instruction
to
sheet.
create an ordinance.
Just something that is friendly to the public,
Absolutely.
that helps clarify it.
Staff has been working on that today.
Excellent. The next part is that in 3, and it would probably go at the end of 3, adding in some line about a renewal policy, that what will be the typical practice, or I won't be here in 5 years, so I don't know.
Again, if you recall, the original draft I gave you had a renewal. And then I decided after rereading the statute 3 or 4 times that was really setting up a presumption of a 10-year lease, which would be contrary to the law.
Oh, I see. So that's why we can't put a renewal. Okay, that's fine. You're
And I don't-
refreshing my memory.
I have no problem with renewing the lease 50 times, but
No,
it's
you're
a
right.
5-year lease.
I have it crossed out on our other notes. Sorry.
That's a tough
It is a tough.
situation, when you spend, $50,000, $75,000 building a pier, putting electric to it, putting lifts up and everything, and then you have no guarantee.
And if you want to do it the other way, we can do the bid process and make it a longer thing.
Lease thing is drawn out long enough. There would be an uprising if they were not indeed renewed.
What is the statute?
I'm sorry, there's no public comment right now. There are a couple of spelling, grammatical.
I take full credit for those.
So I'll just assume that you'll look back over that. In section 4, seems to be a lot of question of legality of going on the property. I think that's a building and zoning question. Do you,
Well, if it's like anything else, if I rent a piece of property from you and I sign a lease,
yeah,
I
I'm your landlord.
have agreed to the terms of that lease. So here, I'm signing a lease with the town, I'm agreeing to the terms of the lease, which include the right of inspection.
right, yeah,
Yeah, if I own the property, the gentleman was absolutely right, I own the property, you can't come on my property without my consent. In this case, I'm leasing the property from town, and in the contract documents, it says you have the right to come upon the property. I have consented to that.
because it's
I
not.
don't have to lease the property.
Yeah, so if I leased High Tides, Brian could come on his own property.
If it's in your lease agreement, yes.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that since there seems to be a lot of question on it. Number 5, that this wording of it being at the discretion of the municipality, that doesn't bother me as much, but I can understand why it would bother someone. You know, is there?
I don't have any problem changing that. so
Yeah,
it
is there
doesn't-
any council opinion on allowing the transfer of lease to the new owner? I think we should try to make it seamless.
I think the intent was just to make sure that they didn't lease it to someone that didn't live at that wasn't part of that residence. So that the pier went with the actual address. Fit within the property. Correct.
Can we just clarify that then, and then allow a,
Right,
transfer?
to the homeowner.
Right, to
Homeowner.
congruent homeowner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Number 6, the amount of insurance required, $1 million homeowner's policy seems typical to me, and we're just additionally insured. That also seems typical to a leased property. You have to do that if you have an event on Town Hill for one day, so that doesn't seem outlandish to me. And number 7, I like the idea of being more specific with 30 calendar days. That was brought up.
I think that is implied when you say 30 days, but we can make it count.
You know, if there's a question of whether it's work days or calendar days, just put in the word calendar in there.
Right.
And that was all the things, and it was, if all those are addressed and we could approve it as amended by discussion, I would be okay with that.
And again, this is only a lease agreement for those persons who own property on one side of the road. Now, when we get to other circumstances, we're gonna have to either come up with a form lease or do a lease individually. It's to get, and as indicated, it's to get the ball moving.
Well, the problem, again, if we approve this lease, then we're locking in a lot of these terms. And a lot of the terms are major issues for a lot of the homeowners who either have existing piers or who want to build piers. I want to move the thing forward. We need to move it forward, but I don't know that we will. In the past, we've not been good at coming back and revisiting issues like this. Now, one thing that I did find in reading the meeting minutes from 2002, the town council had a third-party attorney do a complete review of the pier lease and ordinance, and I've been trying to find a copy of the report. There was a third-party law firm that was engaged to do that. Now, that's been part of the problem that we were having with the prior town attorney, is that it wasn't going back and finding what the history of all this stuff was. And so we're sitting up here today making decisions, and we don't have any of the history. And like a couple people have said, there's a lot of history that goes back on some of these piers, back to the 40-year lease thing and so forth. And I don't even know what the prior attorney came up with in that report, because I haven't been able to find it. I want to move this forward, but what bothers me is our prior attorney has never done her homework on this thing, and we're sitting here still with a big void and a vacuum on information.
Well, I was advised, Mr. Serby, whether it's right, wrong, or different, that there were no active permits. Now, I've heard different tonight. If
There was permits, there was piers built in the last 6 months.
Was there an active permit from the town?
Yeah.
Leases?
Well, were they done
No.
under that, what was it, a franchise thing that Andre had come up with?
No.
I mean, we built two new piers on Irving Avenue at least in the last 6 months. Are they not leased? Well, how'd they get done?
They're not leased because BMRC said that
How'd the piers get
they
done?
missed those.
They
They
missed
said that BMRC said they missed those, but now that it has come to their attention that there are no leases, that they now are requiring a lease.
Yeah, with all due respect to the previous, council's effort to investigate and still not have that investigation finished, I just want to move on, and I would like to propose that we vote on Resolution 18-19 as amended in discussion.
Obviously, if there are current active permits granted by the town for the use of town property, they're there and they're valid. If there are docks that permits have expired, this would help clean up those things.
There are building permits, and the permits for something don't expire unless the structure.
But-
There's a motion on the table.
You
I'm
can't,
asking,
you can't, granting a building permit for someone to build property on somebody else's property doesn't work.
it sounds like we have.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve resolution 18-19 as amended in discussion. Any further discussion?
There's a second.
Is there a second? Mr. Alger?
Aye.
Mr. Hunt? Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Lehman?
Aye.
Mr. Serby?
Nay.
Ms. Roberson?
Nay.
Ms. Schick?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Okay, motion passes. All right, now, we want to continue with resolution 19-19, we'll get business out of the way. We'll come back to it. Resolution 19-19, referral to the planning commission, RA review and recommendation of amendments to town code section 13, article 3, boardwalk vendors and peddlers, and Colonial Beach zoning ordinance, articles 5, 7, 8, and 9. It's in tab F. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, I'll start real quick. This goes back to the conversation we had informally about food trucks, being able to participate more in the town, in the commercial areas of town, without hindrance to the town, without hindrance to other businesses and such. It's starting to discuss it real quick.
Anybody who had their comments written down, could you get a copy of them to Kathleen in Town Hall? Anybody who had comments that they could give to Kathleen too?
Okay, so back to this discussion on this. Is there any discussion?
Well, I just think it's very important that some of these properties, some of the commercial properties that we have that would be opportunities for these food trucks to come onto are going to have some really tough restrictions because of the proximities to streets and so on and so forth. And I mean, I think we definitely want to do this, but it's going to take some real input. The planning commission is really going to have to pull the police department into it, pull the courts into it a little bit, I think, and to make sure that we cover some of the safety issues and so forth. Because we can't have them sitting in the street unless the road's closed or something for a festival.
Right, yeah. Right, and that could happen. We could close roads for festivals and things like that. I think most of the intent that what I know of is it's involved like the brewery having a race, a 5K or a 10K race, and wanting to have some kind of food truck at their place of business, off the roadway, in the back there, where everybody else is, and to be able to feed the masses. And then I know that we all know that there's one particular truck that likes to go and has permission from the Napa company, Napa business up there to set up shop there. And they do that because I guess in the winter it's not as productive on the boardwalk as it is at the beach gate coming into town and like that, so.
Well, like I said, with issues, if it's something self-contained, it's one thing. If it's something that's got to be plugged in or a hose runs through it for water, it's
Right.
a totally different animal.
Totally different thing.
I mean, I think my point, I guess, is going to happen, yes, the catalyst for this was the one opportunity, one situation, but I think that this could create a lot of additional opportunities for people who hadn't thought about it before, and we just need to look at it very broadly like that. And I think we all agree that it's something to do.
Any other discussion? Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Ryan?
Aye.
Mr. Lehman?
Aye.
Mr. Serby?
Aye.
Ms. Rose?
Aye.
Ms. Schick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you. All right, let's go back to sorry, Gladys. let's take a 2-minute recess.
I knew this.
I must have missed it.
Well, probably. Well, let's just go ahead. I really
We could actually have the budget hearing on the 21st. No, okay, people have to make up
It's hard to determine. That's why I'm just We fixed it once.
I got a.
Well, Ken Hart, Ken. Pursue adjacent property. You can either sign off on it.
So
So it's in.
I can type in everything I have to have. Then you realize it's like 5 or 6 minutes. Yeah, I'm like, I need to talk about all this. And then we get them going back and forth, and I just get it, bring it up. So that's all that happens. I mean, we have the church to do. We got 5 more things to do that. And she's like, just let me know. Nothing major. Yeah, I just got it. It's my fault. Yeah, and I was like, they are busy. It's not like, that's the only thing. Yeah. So I told her, I'll see you tonight. Yeah. If not, then I'll talk to you about it. Okay. Yeah, so, yeah. Hey, how you doing, man? Yeah, man. I have. Let me know. Yeah. Also the training on Wednesday. He called me. He called me, last Friday. He told me about it, so, yeah. Good
Really?
I seriously thought. I just need to read copies.
Issue of that right there where it meets. Here, when you're talking when they put the weed people parking anywhere, when they came in, clean the city. But now, with the house here, all the houses.
I just got a letter today, and we all got a letter today. So we got that, and then there's notice there. First, I'm probably want to talk to either Mr. Murphy, our director of public works, or Quinn, that's our town manager. The gentleman, another gentleman with the green sweater, he's got them. That's the one he's our town manager. So we just got a letter and our package. So that's what I heard about that.
I'm on city and we got a real bad. What is that? Then all people are talking on that.
Careful exactly what I'm talking about here. We were going to put women rather than parking there. So that way, people that are big can't go park in the front. It's left open. That was talked about here. And then three-phase property. First phase is get started. Mr. Murphy is our public works director. He's the one that works with the gardens, putting and stuff like that. We do have a public I'll break out from one of the council members. Okay. You got the public comment, and then you want to back down, so we do have a letter. Okay.
Okay, if I could, I'd like to welcome Ms. Gomez. Next part of our presentation on the budget process, the fiscal town expenditures. If you remember, our last presentation was on the revenues. Ms. Gomez.
I had sent you the first portion last week and said I would provide some additional information, and so I put it together and printed out for you, and then what's on the screen is the updated version, so what was circulated has been updated. So if you just refer to the copy of it. So last time we met at the work session, we talked about revenues and focused on the general fund revenues. So I'm starting with the other two funds that the town has revenue in, and it's the water and then also the sewer WWTP fund. So start off with just like I did with the general fund, providing 4-year history and current numbers. January 31st is an important date because that's the last date that we were on the old system from a GL perspective. And so we're still, I couldn't update the revenue piece through February because we're still wrapping up closing January and getting some items recorded in February. But we'll have it, when we present the budget, I'll give you updated numbers. I'm going to go out on a limb. I think we may even have updated numbers to March 31st for that budget presentation, first week of April. At least I'm telling you, I think we can do it. So when we looked at revenue on the general fund, we saw that there were some key items that made up the bulk of that. In the situation of water and sewer fund, we'll see that, basically it's the charges, right? That's where the bulk of the dollars come in. You can't ignore the connection fees or the reconnection fees either. You need to be aware of those and budget them and forecast them appropriately. Okay? And then just gave you some charts there to see, kind of visually, you can glance on the first page and you can see the trend there, but if you look at it on the graph, kind of makes a statement. So on the next page, Kathy, where it talks about budget versus actual revenue. What it's showing is that we probably can be a little bit more, we should be budgeting a little bit closer to actual. We have a bit of a gap. I know. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Okay. And that's what kind of shows you on the left there, where the variance is kind of going negative. When you have actual is higher than budget, it's actually a negative variance, and when it's revenue, that's a good thing that you want. But you want to be better able to forecast that. Okay.
Rob, do we have any relationship to usage of gallons on these variations? Is there, can we, charges went up because usage is going up, and we had a blip because of the rate increase? I mean, right now, we're just looking at, the curve with no real,
It's just the curve from the that's what you say.
Yeah, we tried to kind of figure out what that could be and couldn't quite exactly put our, what the actual cause was. Now remember, your budget to actual is only as good as your budget. So I think, I can't speak for what the basis was in prior years. So I don't know. I know when we did, I know the approach we took 19. And then you see how close it comes.
Did I misunderstand your question? I thought you were asking, was it that you're looking at actual usage? The only the only real control of actual usage that you would see in here up to date was because of the commercial accounts. And they were actually utilizing overage fees.
well, I mean, we know what we're pushing through the whole system as far as consumption. And, I was just kind of wondering, is our consumption increased that that much to affect our revenue that much, or is it the changes in our water rates? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when we did 19, we had, we worked with Rob to identify number of customers and different rates and all of that. But the prior years, I'm not familiar with how they budgeted that number.
Utilizing the flat rate.
Yep. Okay. Next page. So, I kind of put this in here. It's kind of a revenue and an expenditure, but I wanted to get these. So when the way this project works, the meter project, is there was up to $4,374,004 allowed for this project through the DRA. So it's almost like a line of credit, a reimbursement, and it actually is a grant too. Okay, it's subject to the A133 standards. So this kind of gives you an idea that we kind of have where, kind of like how it was budgeted, and really it was just a full amount. And so far in 19, this represents actual submitted reimbursements. Okay?
So we've received 1.3 so far?
So in other words, we've spent and received $1.3 million, yes.
But we
Just in-
spent 4.3 of that.
No, that's the full total maximum.
Oh, wait.
And the reason you see 0 in fiscal 18 is because that amount that was there, because this is a proprietary fund, it gets moved over from the revenue to long-term debt. Okay? And so in 18, if this were not, that year-to-date in 18 was $2,132,713. It's at the bottom there, $2,132,713.83. Okay?
And then our total cost is
Yeah. Mhm.
And what's our projected cost of the pool?
Right about it for me.
So we're gonna have savings. I
Well,
mean, we're not gonna have savings,
Well,
we're not going to spend or
We
receive
cannot.
reimbursement.
right now, remember there's a bit of a lag, so this represents total costs, incurred and reimbursed. So there are some that have been, that are in the process of Rob submitting for reimbursement.
Correct.
So,
But that's in the agreement for
no, this is just looking at the proceeds side. So in other words, our debt as of this point in time, as of January 31st, is $3.4 million. Okay? So, so now, so there's possibly, you submitted 13 or 12 reimbursement requests. I think you have one or two.
Got one more.
Got one more.
Now.
Yeah. Yeah. But, do you think it's gonna be done by June 30th?
The whole thing?
Yeah.
I'll go say, probably a little bit more.
Okay.
Now, realizing that we're potentially coming in below the ceiling of the grant reimbursement. There's going to be savings to the grant that we can't take unless we spend. My question is, do we need to go back and review and make sure that all of our costs have been correctly applied to this, and that we're getting reimbursed everything that we should be that's associated with this?
Yeah, the part of the DRA loan, actually, they had us in the general ledger set up certain codes, and you know, code to those, and we've matched the reimbursement requests to the amounts that are in those codes. And then anything that's pending, finance department asks Rob, hey, are you submitting these? So things are not supposed to be coded to those unless it's part of this.
We have an administration factor, or, I mean, we spent a lot of time
Yeah, I
administrating the project.
Yeah, I'll tell you, let me see if I printed it out here, the detail. Yeah, there's 6 different,
I mean,
yes,
we don't need- I
there's
just-
design.
You know what I'm trying to do, I
yes,
mean, if there's
yeah.
dollars there, we need to make sure that we don't
Yeah.
shortchange ourselves.
Yeah, we were,
This is part of the meetings that you have on a regular basis.
The administration, there are 6 different codes.
We don't need to go into the details
Yeah.
now, it's just
Yeah.
a concern, if there's dollars there.
But there are.
it's actually subject to audit by the VRA, and the auditor came
Yeah, they
out.
always audit the county, they don't.
Yeah, well, but they came and they're the ones that said it needs to be in this format, and you need to track it using these 6 or 8 categories, and it's got to fit in those, and then, I don't think you had, I don't think you had it there, if anything, denied?
Denied.
I don't,
No.
no.
If we have extra, there is rooming for a number there, can we just buy extra meters for
Well,
possible development?
that actually, and it's a limited amount. But as we get towards the end, we obviously know that we have to have some reserve, and we will be allowed to have some
The other question I would have is,
for inventory.
Right.
Maintenance.
Yeah.
are we protected in any way against some kind of breakage or something, for instance, if we need it? If the grant's over, the debt's over, they're done, we tapped out of our part, they moved on, are we protected at some level if something goes wrong with these meters? If it's found that there's something wrong with these meters, can we keep some money in reserve, or is that at all?
Well, I would think that would be a warranty issue.
Warranty is also reason so long. Well,
No, the conduit, the Atlantic broadband line we're running now, is that to read any, is that any of the meter reading part of that? So we couldn't put any of that.
no, they're.
That's mainly the routing line.
Next slide. Okay, so another key component of having this, and the town has never really had this to my knowledge, first of all, dealing with the reimbursement situation, and then also having this kind of debt covenants. And so I just wanted to restate the covenant. And then the town has complied with the covenant the last 2 years. The first year, it was pretty much no big deal because there was no debt payment. In 18, there was minimal either, and then in 19, the amortization table kicks in. And so that amortization table is based on the full 4.37, whatever. Okay, so the first principal and interest payment was due March 1st of 2019, and so we paid it. And I checked with VRA and asked them, since the project isn't complete, do we need to redo this amortization table? And they confirmed that no, we owe the principal and interest according to the amortization table, and then once the project is over, we could have it re-amortized and potentially save some in the bills. But there's no point in doing it now and then having, that's why I asked, how close are we to, being at that point to have that. But the town did pay it on March 1st when it was due. And even though it hasn't, really the interest component would be smaller, so they just put more towards the principal. Okay. The other thing is that we have to be aware of that additional debt service in setting water rates. Definitely with fiscal 20. There have to be very careful making sure that we maintain that debt covenant. And the next two slides are the actual pages that are in the town's financial statements that shows that we are in compliance. So the bottom number for fiscal 17 showed that there was operating revenue in excess of debt payments of $186,000. Okay, so this cannot be any. At worst case, this would have to be zero. Okay, we don't ever want to get near that. Okay, and then in 18, the operating revenue in excess was $271,927. That's only because, you know, it was kind of interest only at the time. Okay. So.
So that was down because it started pushing.
Right, and then now you have a principal and interest payment basically due twice a year of $140,000 approximately, so it's 280. So you can see that when you get to a full year of principal and interest, that eats that up, yeah. Yeah. And so those were based on existing water rates. So we need to have conversations, and that will be part of the budget process. Okay. All right, so sewer fund revenues, similar type of slides with a 4-year history of actual and then current to date, and again, no surprise there, the bulk of the revenue comes from sewer charges. This one does have a component of the wastewater processing fee that is county portion and part of that agreement. Next couple of pages, again, are just some revenue analysis and trying to figure out why it kind of dipped and then went up, and we're still trying to hone in on that better. We'll have some more information when we go through the budget process to try and shed more light on that. The next page shows the,
Not there yet.
you see the septage, that is new revenue that started in 17, I'm sorry, that should be 17, yeah. And there are 5 companies, right? That's what, yeah, but only 2 are really actively using it on a regular basis. So the reason, do you want to explain how this all came about?
Yeah,
Okay.
when we actually did a capital improvement, it ended last fiscal year. And the intent was, for many years, we've received septic, but we did not have the handling equipment to handle it years ago from localities where we're pumping septic tanks, things like that. So it used to be a revenue source, but our equipment wouldn't handle it in the standard. So we upgraded the equipment so it could still handle it and maintain it, and then recreate the revenue source. So it's been, where was it, last year?
With septage was the first year is 23,000, and then currently through January of this year we're at 38.
38, and that was a piece of the year.
Right.
last year.
It started, I believe, September or October. Yeah. That's why, yeah. So fiscal 18, correct, is when it started.
So hopefully it looks like it'll get to by the end of the year.
Right. And then, let's see, down below it, county share capital improvements. There were actually some capital improvements that were in the wastewater treatment plant side of the water and sewer fund, the sewer fund. So we were able to capture some of the percentage of those investments according to the wastewater processing fee. Do you know why there's a dip there? Ostensibly, it looks like we're not getting all kind of flow, right? So, but like I said,
There's a percentage.
yeah, well, like I said, those are the things that, you know, once you see it like that, you begin to look further into it and to get smarter about it, the operations. Okay?
Are we measuring treatment as compared to water? I know, I guess when we go on rates, typically you charge your sewer when it's staying in gallons of water. Are we gonna, how are they comparing right now? And that would, because that's gonna basically be the difference.
There's no metering of each house's.
I'm talking about total consumption versus total treatment. I mean, because the difference is the I.
Because they're I and I.
But I was wondering if we're gaining on the I and I.
This year didn't.
With the rain.
Next one. All right, so, this is, you know, budget to actual again and the variance. So, you know, we're just getting, unlike, with water fund, we've kind of been all over the place on projecting revenues here, so we need to get better at it.
It's like a bad.
Yeah, it's not close. Yeah. Okay, and then the next slide, go to the next one, Kathy. This is just a summary of the rates and just again, a historical review of it and a reminder that we need to revisit both when we go through this year's budget process and definitely again with respect to water. I think last year we had considered $35 rate instead of the 24. And so that's just, we may have to update that conversation and analysis, and it may or may not be that number. Okay.
So last time it was raised was in 2014.
Yes. Mhm. Yep. And there would be an ordinance, right, that would have to be, okay. Is there a public hearing that has to go with that? Okay. Next page. Next one. Okay, so now we're finally on to expenditures. And clearly there are a lot more expenditure line items than there are revenue line items. So I was able to give you a lot of graphs, you know, for the revenues you can hone in. So right now, we're going to get to that detail when we get to the budget. So I just wanted to throw out there, you know, the conversation of expenditures, that this is the current setup that we have. We've identified these departments, and this is how we, you know, kind of allocate and segregate and keep track of all of our expenditures. Okay? So if you just look across some of these numbers from year to year, you know, I'm not picking on any of them. Some of them just had some numbers that I thought, hey, let's look at them. Okay, so, you know, if I look at the town council, you know, we see that, you know, in 15, there was just significant more amount of money than in, you know, the last 3-4 years, okay, including this year. Well, what happened in fiscal 15 was that the town hall was relocated. Okay?
The council put that on in our.
It just happened to be coded to council. Yeah. Rightly or wrongly, that's where it was at. And then if we look at refuse down below, I went and I looked and saw that there was new machinery and equipment in that department that was coded to that department. The medical plan also increased as well. With respect to the hospital, the medical plan, that one's tough to budget because you don't know the mix of your employees, if they're going to be, you know, which plan they're going to take. And so, you know, if you have turnover and you have more, you know, that, you know, that's, you know, when you hire somebody, you don't know what plan they're gonna pick, or if they're even gonna need a plan. Sometimes their spouse, they can just jump on their spouses and they'll stay on their spouses. Okay. Let's see, and then, further down, again, buildings and grounds, you see a lot of ups and downs there. It's because there's, you know, in, this 15, there was actually a department that was buildings and grounds, but it was school, it was related to the demolition of the burnt out, high school building. Okay. Well, it was still incurred, but it was still incurred, so this is just the expenditure side of it. So we can, I know that there were insurance proceeds, and, you know, I can certainly work with Lisa to, you know, connect the dots on that. Yeah. That was, it was coded to, was that?
The insurance money would be in the revenue side that you gave.
Yes, whenever you, yes. Then also in, let's see, there's some capital projects. Recently, we can, you know, point to the boat ramp, new machinery and equipment, things like that. I also wanted to point out that, highways, streets, bridges, and sidewalks is a department that is specifically linked to the revenue for that. Okay, so the budget that's here is equal to the revenue that comes in. Okay, it matches. And then Rob also fills out a annual report where it gets reconciled, right? You just did that, right? So well, you make a report and you just did it. So yeah, it's due by March 15th for the entire year. And there's just, you know, a couple of other comments there, you know, in town manager and in the finance department. But in order to see some of these, you know, spikes and trends, you really have to go into each department, and there could be 15, 20 line items. You know, you've got to, you're looking at a spreadsheet like this, and, you know, trying to, and then sometimes you actually have to physically go into the system and see what the activity was in a particular set of accounts to figure out what it was. Okay.
What percent employee February
60s, yeah, 67%, I think, yeah.
We project out the
Yeah,
numbers here under, right,
yeah.
keeping it over 67% of
Yeah. Again,
But the school.
some
is
expen,
100%.
yeah, that's what I say, some expenditures are,
the
you know,
ones.
yeah,
with that.
yeah. And actually, when we implemented the new system, Edmonds, with the requisitions, something cannot go in unless it's budgeted. So there is that additional control that is, you know, definitely, you know, a requisition. Now, there are, what I call utility payments and, you know, the rental payments or the police station and things like that, that, you know, it's not a requisition, but before that gets paid, it still is subject to there being, you know, budget for it. And it's typical, any localities, when you get into the last 3 months of the year, people, you know, things start, the budgets start getting smaller and smaller, and decisions are being made, you know, to perhaps, you know, budget something in the next fiscal year and not do that. But then there's also day-to-day things that have to be done. You know, it just, you know, it just doesn't stop, operations
I
don't
think
just
we're
stop.
talking about some of those in the department, we move around, balance of issues, you got jobs.
What is ARS and Virginia?
It's the retirements, yep. Yep. Okay. And so on these next slides, Kathy, I try to highlight some of the things that when you look at it, you get the ability to look at it by line item, and you have all 4 years in front of you, you know, things start to stand up to you and say, oh, hey, this is, you know, part of the reason. Okay. And this is just a detail of some of the ones that I highlighted. I mean, there are definitely a lot more departments that I didn't include in here with a lot more line items. Okay. These are ones that I thought had some fluctuation in them and didn't carry over onto 3 or 4 pages, and I could put them all on one page. And not have to switch. Okay, I'll just keep going through these, Kathy. Let me know if you have any particular questions.
One question I have is on debt service, is that percentage of debt service, is that?
Which page? What do you mean percentage?
14.7%.
Here?
Is that fair?
Okay, so do you want to go to, all right, so that's the vertical analysis. That's putting each total expenditure in perspective of total expenditure. So instead of looking at it this way and doing trend analysis, I'm looking at it this way, that's why it's called. So I highlighted the ones that were over 10%. The town has issued a lot of debt pretty consistently. So we did have a drop off, but then we went back up again and added some additional debt.
I've seen it, it fluctuates, I'm just wondering, is there a?
Well, the only reason it fluctuates is because, like one will drop off or gets refinanced in, and then, I think what you're seeing here is the BPSA for the building of the new school. Okay. And then then you start seeing, it going back up again because some of them were low, were maybe interest only, and then suddenly we're starting to get the principal and interest.
Well, the other part about this is that this is saying that the year-to-date in 19, you have to be careful with, because
Right.
we paid the whole school
I-
on time, but some
Right.
of these others have only expended 60%.
Well, and this is not a remaining budget. This is a percentage of the total. So this is true also. So in debt service, the bulk of our debt service has been paid. There are some payments that are due in March and April, but the bulk of it has been done. So, it's on the
So
schedule.
it will change it, the 19 number,
Correct, yeah. I mean,
not a lot.
I thought about not putting 19 numbers on, but I know you guys want to know where we're tracking. So, and these are the conversations that you have to have in putting everything in perspective. Our revenue isn't, every month. It's got these big spikes, and our expenditures, some of them are pretty steady and some aren't.
Yeah, I was just thinking with respect to debt, is there a particular percentage that is expected of local government, local municipalities on our side?
There's,
There's a nut
It's
to
not
exceed
to
that, right?
exceed
You can't
that.
go over a certain
Yeah.
ratio.
yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's right.
That's 10%.
I'm just curious, it's okay, we can go.
10% of the value.
Yeah. But it depends on what you're putting it in, because this is just comparing it to current expenditures too. So if your expenditures are varying from year to year, that percentage will change as well.
If I look at this class, it looks to me like the debt service at 14.27 is going fine
Well, it's total expenditures to date
today.
in fiscal 19, okay?
If we spend money on these other things,
This-
that percentage will be.
Yes, right. So this is just so, let's just look at 15 through 18. This is just telling you where the bulk of the expenditures are going to by the fund. Okay?
And if we budgeted more or less correctly, the school number will go back down to 30 and
Correct.
be consistent.
Exactly, yes. You cannot take 19 and compare it to the other ones because it is not a complete final accrual basis things. Yep. Okay? All right, and so next. Keep going.
So we expect the police department.
I think you went
specialist. Is it usually like it's 3 years, we're in the second year.
So we
And
just pay it once every 3 years?
No, every month.
Oh, we pay monthly?
Yes, and so the rate actually increases every year. So it started at 3,000 and, you know, and then it
Monthly,
increases to, yeah.
So when we look at expenses.
Yeah,
So we'll
correct. We're in the second year.
Remember that we didn't start with fiscal.
No, it's September, I think, September or October. It goes up, so it started off at 3,000 a month, and we're currently at 3,090, and I believe it goes to 3,100 or 3,110.
There's a clause in the agreement with BMT for AC, this number, so I think that was about that.
Mr. Robertson, we can't hear you at
Oh,
all.
I apologize, didn't have a mic. It's also gonna go up, in order to get AC, the way the agreement was done. I didn't factor that in. BB&T is willing to give AC to the second floor of the building, but there's a cost associated with
They don't have
that.
air conditioning?
They did not. I approved them to go ahead and move forward, seeing how they're in battle armor and, you know, and all that stuff. So, but that, I think that is around $100 a month extra.
Okay, and so, now we're gonna focus in on, the expenditure side on, water and sewer. Just 2 more slides, hang on. So, in the water fund and the sewer fund, we don't have an awful lot of departments. It's very, clear and simple, and it's basically, what it takes to support that water delivery and the debt service associated with that fund, and in the sewer fund, we've got sewer and WWTV.
And that service
And
is
debt
only
service.
because
That's the one in the water side that,
Payment, those are
exactly,
involved.
yep. Yep. And you will, when we get to budget, you'll see it in more detail, and we'll, I'll explain to you exactly the deficit that the town has and when they incurred it, and over the, how many years it is, and,
We're
the
gonna get
expectation of it is.
reimbursed though for a lot of our.
No, so it's just a project. So instead of, what happens is instead of them, like when you do debt, it's like bond proceeds, you get the money there, okay? And then you don't have to wait and draw down on it, you will pay out of it, This was just a little bit different. So the town has had to float anywhere from 30 to 60 days. And so, okay, yeah. And we not want to do that again? Should the town ever have the need for debt? I wouldn't recommend structuring it that
Yourself
way.
out a little bit. When you
Yeah.
structure it that way, you're incurring the cost, but you're not getting reimbursed. And so our revenues are direct to our
Yeah, and you have to look at cash flow.
Well, that's,
yeah.
the revenue,
Yeah.
the revenue
Yeah.
is way behind.
It's important to keep a good tax plan because we're, next to take those money.
And, we can talk a little bit more about that when we do the budget, maybe if there's opportunities to maybe not incur debt, if there's available money, and we talk about the, okay. So, just a reminder of the budget calendar, of where we're at. We had a similar aggressive timetable last year, didn't come anywhere near it, because the budget got approved in late June. If I suggest, I don't know legally if we have to do this, should we be updating the calendar, if we don't stick to these things, or?
It's not illegal.
Legal,
This is
okay.
for
working document.
Okay. But it is our intent to present the budget in 2 weeks.
Are we current with the plan?
Hmm?
You got any-
We're working through it, and next week, heavy duty time, and numbers are going to go in, and conversations, and revenue projections, and expenditure need requests, and hopefully it works out. And then it's up to town council to review it, and then yay or nay, or, school boards, you guys are used to looking at very detail and saying yes to this, no to this. So I think it'll be a different process for the town council, because it's going to be detailed. We'll be providing you specific numbers, and we'll tell you, this is this many people, and current, and this is the salaries projected, and, it's going to have some, specifics behind it. I do want to be open that on April 17th, I am on spring break with my family. So when you choose to continue discussing the budget, it just kind of happened this way. I'm not presenting it to you with plan on April 3rd and then just running off for a month, okay? It just happened that way because you guys decided to meet at the first and third Wednesday, okay? And spring break is the second Wednesday of April.
It is for me as well, not that I'm going anywhere, but it's glad because I'm doing
Well, we may not discuss it at that agenda meeting. Wait, you're in Egypt on the 17th? Oh. Yeah. That's fine, we'll have a nice easy meeting.
Oh, it's blame for it.
I just mean we won't be able to bring up anything that will require Jim or Gladys.
Now, last year, we gave the town council a general fund budget first. You guys digested it, and then we presented water and sewer. So, do you want it all? Do you want it, you let us, if you want, April 3rd, if you want all three, we can certainly work towards that. But I just know that last year, the way it worked out is, we gave you the operating fund. Then we gave you water and sewer.
So, last
We could provide it to you, or if you'd rather just have us,
What part of the line of all companies?
obviously we work on the big one first, the operating fund.
I would think if the council members wanted to make an appointment with you on or around before you left
Yes,
spring break,
absolutely, yeah.
to get to answer questions that they may have.
Oh, yeah, we need that, we encourage that, yeah.
Right. And because last year was kind of a transition year
Mhm.
with the new budget process presented by you
Right.
and having to tidy up things from previous budgets. And so-
Last year we basically just used fiscal 17 as a kind of
Yeah.
stake in the ground. We didn't know where 18 was gonna, wind up, and that's what it was.
I feel fairly confident that we can at least get through a big chunk of it if you want to go meet if you have questions.
So you wanted to provide both the water, sewer, and
General fund.
Yeah, because then we'll have a more.
The water and sewer is kind of
Well, but the water's gonna have a conversation regarding your
the
rates.
new meter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
But are we
Yeah.
gonna go on,
Yeah.
are we gonna go online with the new meters? I mean, I don't.
No, but we're tracking it,
It's our
but,
cost and our rates.
Right.
yeah,
Right,
yeah, so,
right.
yeah.
We need it
yeah.
plus 20.
Yeah, so like I said, we identified $35 last year for water. And, The DAC covenant says that if, as soon as you find out that you think you're not going to be in compliance, you need to increase the rates. So,
We had this conversation already, we've done a study, he showed us a study, and I think it's just a matter of coming to the number one rate. We know it's not gonna go, we're not gonna lower the rates, we know that, and we're going in. Plus, we have to have 20% overage to carry, costs moving forward, and construction costs or whatever. So, we know that, so that's gonna be up to you and Rob to figure out with the company we're using, figure out what the rate should be. And present it
yeah,
to
we
us.
had a whole separate, presentation last year. Quinn and Rob worked together on that. You know, they did the bulk of that analysis.
Showers, 4 people, 2 people, and all that stuff. Well, I mean, it is what it is.
But, yes, I just want to make sure that we know the process for that. Kathy, you could, get with me on the ordinance, so we have that ready and available, should there. But there is a public meeting that's required, correct? on
Do
that
we
too?
want Jim to meet with, what's the name of the company using from Memphis?
They're not a part of this yet, because
it's
not
But we need an ordinance, right?
I believe, Kathy, so the ordinance would be changed, right? For water rates?
Yeah, we've got a shell ordinance.
Okay, right, so we would just need that, and we would change it, right? But I just would want that to have readily available and handy and all of that. Our ordinance,
How are they separated? Or are they not?
They're required.
they're required to be separated.
Okay, but I guess I'm not getting this right. Means that, does one cost more than the other in the two rooms already? Okay. So I was.
One basically supports the other, and the better. Water and sewer, used to be one fund. And, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, there was definitely a trend where you saw localities splitting them up. Because when, companies were providing financing, they wanted to know if, can the sewer fund stand alone? Can the water fund stand alone? Or, so when you're looking at something to finance, and you're financing just a portion of it, you're not financing the entire water, sewer, and WWTP. If you're asking for debt, to do some capital improvements or project just on water, then they're gonna wanna know that that piece of it you're providing support for this. So there was definitely a lot of localities started splitting them out. And then that gives you an idea. It is, yeah, absolutely.
Is that it?
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions for Lance? Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Travis, again, thank you. Okay, so we're gonna move down to the next bullet, still under presentations, school. I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Did I miss
we
something?
did all the unfinished business except that one.
Let me get this,
Oh, okay, sorry, never
That's pretty
mind.
good.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll stick in presentations then, right now. Colonial Beach Schools, they've left, but Vicki, you want to make a...
Yes, I misspoke. They are having their presentation for their budget on March 27th, which is next Wednesday, at 5:30, right here in Town Hall.
Thank you. Next is Westmoreland County Supervisor, Larry Roberson. He left, however, he did want to, just fill you in real quick. He contacted me the other night by phone, said the county had made an agreement on some purchases of law enforcement vehicles at a really, really good price. Had to hurry up, so So I called the police chief, and in turn met with the town manager, and in the process of this, if you know, one of our vehicles was just wrecked. It was proven not to be reliable anymore. So we were able to get on this bid and save a considerable amount of money on a sedan. We didn't go with no SUV in this particular one. So,
Yeah, we had that budget for this year.
yeah, and you got insurance money from the crashed Ford SUV. Planning commission.
I'm going to wear a couple of hats. So with the Planning Commission, we've been working on the comprehensive plan. We have divided up the chapters of the comprehensive plan amongst the commissioners and have started writing on the chapters. We also are going to be having individual neighborhood meetings to try to collect information at a very local neighborhood level for putting into the comprehensive plan. It'll help us to determine the goals, objectives, and strategies for the comprehensive plan. We've been having work sessions every month. The next work session is tomorrow at 3 o'clock from 3 to 5 in Town Hall. So if anybody is interested in coming to that, it would be great to have you there. And since I'm here, can I talk about the foundation as well?
Yeah, please, next.
So a few things happening with the foundation that are kind of exciting. One of them is that we have received a radio license. The Fredericksburg, there was a Christian school in Fredericksburg who has been broadcasting a radio station here in Colonial Beach, broadcasting from an antenna that's over by Wilkerson's. They decided they didn't want it anymore, and it came to our attention that they wanted to give it to a not-for-profit here in Colonial Beach. And so the foundation has studied the issue and determined that there's enough community support for a radio station. So we are going to receive the license. We're going to have a separate kind of group of people, a separate board and volunteers to work on developing the radio station. But that's in the works. It's kind of exciting. We're going to be working with the schools and other nonprofits to try to put together something kind of fun and interesting for the town. Also, you may have, if the foundation had your email address, then you have received a request to rejoin the foundation. We have finally gotten into the 21st century and are now using Constant Contact and another program called Join It to try to get more residents to know more about what the foundation is doing and to get more of the members of more residents to actually join the foundation as friends. So if you receive that email, please join it. It's a good organization, as you know. And there's a few other things we've been working on, but I know it's been a long night, and that's all I'm going to say unless you have some questions.
Thank you, Eric. Downtown Colonial Beach.
As most of you have probably heard, there's going to be an Osprey Festival, the 12th through the 14th, and there's been an amazing, absolutely amazing level of collaboration. We had one man, because we're trying to save every cent to have money to apply for our purpose. One man contributed all this money so we don't have to buy signs, because they're all this wood, so we didn't have to buy signs. Made up all the signs for us, parking signs and a big sign for the event. And another man is painting all the signs, and the Fisheries Commission is offering space, and the retail stores are doing scavenger hunt, and bird experts and the historians are contributing their expertise, and BAM is doing the crafts, and the art galleries and so forth. So it's absolutely amazing, and the collaboration that's occurred with our other nonprofits. And so we'll be showcasing not only our beautiful ospreys, but the love and pride residents feel for this community, and their hospitality and welcoming others to share it with us. Now, we had hoped that our beautiful banners might be hung up before the Osprey Festival. They've been here a couple of months. I just thought I'd show some of them. We have this Welcome to Colonial Beach, which features the beach and the pergola, and we're having 8 of those. And then those are 5 attraction banners are going to be hung that feature elements that could attract visitors all year long, marinas, stay and play. And then historic sites and arts and music, and so we really have some beautiful banners to be hanging down rather homely Colonial Avenue. And I believe Quinn is going to talk a little bit about trying to get these banners up, because we have run into a difficulty. In fact, every step of the way has been a difficulty for 3 years. We don't expect it to stop now. So beautification has been one of our top initial priorities. Sometimes that seems frivolous when there's so many pressing infrastructure projects. But beautification can help foster shopping and business development in the downtown. And this is a very important concept that we're working towards. It can help make the town itself, not just the beach, a destination. And not just during seasons when weather and water conditions are perfect, because we know they usually aren't. But also when the weather's finicky. And during other seasons of the year, as the Osprey Festival will be doing in April. These beautiful banners, funded largely by the Colonial Beach Community Foundation. They're ready to be hung. They're just waiting for your action. I do want to mention briefly our major priority now, and it's why we're doing the Osprey Festival, which is to pursue the revitalization and economic development strategy of the Main Street programs, of which we're an affiliate. It's a strategy they made famous, which is historic preservation-based development. Our historic structures right now are more of an endangered species than our ospreys. We want to change that. We're trying to raise funds to complete the final steps necessary to obtain state and federal certification for a historic district in our downtown. And you may have heard this, we may have said this before, and we're probably going to keep repeating it. Colonial Beach has been declared eligible based on the survey done by the State Office of Historic Resources and released in 2016. We're at stage 8 in the process, we've been informed. There's some 20 or so buildings that were cited as being historically significant. And when the certification goes through, investors who purchase an eligible historic building restore it historically on the outside and operate a business within it
are eligible for a 45% tax credit on the entire renovation inside and out. There are no covenants, there are no restrictions, as far as we know, on the state and federal certifications. You just have to do the exterior restoration historically, and the state helps you with that. We also believe that our current status and our intention to pursue the certification could be used now to market our historic properties. We're connecting with Virginia Main Street and Main Street America to try and identify investors interested in historic district investment and who may be willing to invest, secure, and when the certification goes through, restore and reuse. And our organization is hoping that the town council and government will work with us to pursue this with all due haste. So ospreys are an appropriate mascot for Colonial Beach. Approaching extinction in the mid-1960s, the osprey population was resurrected after DDT and other dangerous pesticides were banned, partially based on data about the ospreys. From only 20 nests at their lowest point to some 20,000 today in the Chesapeake watershed, our area now boasts the most ospreys of any place in the world. Colonial Beach, too, has faced its natural and economic challenges that have led to blight and threatened its viability. We hope by acting to preserve and enhance the historic habitat of our communities downtown, along with our commercial core, that Colonial Beach will rise again to become what the definitive guide to Westmoreland County history describes as exemplifying a small waterside resort with the finest qualities of urban design. Public-spirited, reserving the most valuable riverfront portions for public use, and architecturally a rare period piece, whose Edwardian cottages create a sun-washed impression unique in Westmoreland, if not all of Tidewater, Virginia, north of the James. We have something significant here, and it's worth preserving, protecting it, and using it as with proven strategy of historic preservation fueled economic development. The history book, which I brought with me, admonishes, and we concur, that perhaps before it is too late, people will notice these advantages and give Colonial Beach her due. That's what downtown Colonial Beach, aided by our ospreys, our partners and collaborators are up to. And we look forward to collaborating with you on this important mission. Any questions? Everybody's ready to go home and go to bed, right? Okay, thank you.
I was going to discuss it in the department, of course, but it's just appropriating money for the activity. We need a cherry picker to put them up. We have a couple other items.
Chamber bills?
Good evening. My poster doesn't hold a candle to her banners, but each of you should have gotten one of these, and it's the sponsored, co-sponsored, and supported events for the Chamber, and they'll be around town, and please put them in your places of business. A few things. Chamber Chat went out already for the month of March. The Friday Art Walk we had opening this month in March, and Robin and Tommy's art is at the Chamber. And thank you. They were also on the front page of the Westmoreland News for their art walk at the Chamber. The Chamber was also the beneficiary of some high-quality donated office furniture. It was delivered Monday,
It's still in pieces and parts on the floor of the chamber. We hope to get it put together soon and have a brand new look at the chamber office. We had our awards dinner on the 13th at the Riverboat. It was a great meal and a lovely evening. The winner of the Business of the Year award went to Colonial Beach Brewing. The winner of the Business Person of the Year went to Bob and Kelly Vaughn of the Riverview Inn. The Chamber also recognized Colonial Beach Officers of the Year, Officer Moore and Sergeant Moles, and Westmoreland County Deputy of the Year, Deputy Fogarty, along with all of our volunteers who work and put in thousands of hours a year on all the events that take place. We thank you, Mr. Mayor Eddie Blunt, 5th District Supervisor Larry Robertson, and Chief Bruce Huff for your attendance. We thank also the Town Council and Town Office folks who replied to our invitation. It really makes organizing and planning far more accurate and efficient, and we hope to see the rest of you there next time. Thanks also to Susie again for the lovely article in the paper, and Miss Betty's gone, but Miss Betty was thrilled to have her name in the paper and recognized, so we were happy to see that. The Chamber signed a contract with Chesapeake Style and will be advertising in their 8 editions that go out each year, and the April edition will be a half-page ad that will promote all the events that are going on in town for the Chamber. Another big thing that I think I alluded to last month is the non-governmental organizations have developed a team, and we're going to be meeting quarterly. Our first meeting was on February 27th. Our purpose is to collaborate and communicate among NGOs and create a unified presence that is important to the town and to the non-governmental organizations. The team will have representatives from the Chamber, the Colonial Beach Foundation, Downtown Colonial Beach, the Artists Guild, Colonial Beach Historic Society and Museum, Colonial Beach Public Schools, the Colonial Beach Tourism, Colonial Beach Rec Association, BAM, and we have invited the mayor, who is the representative from Town Council, to the NGOs. But we will also be connecting with civic groups in town, major churches in town, the fire department, the rescue squad, River Dogs, Humane Society, Sea Scouts, etc. The list isn't exhaustive, but it's a reasonable starting point for us. And our first 2 projects that we are working on and have actually started include volunteers and a centralized calendar. So the first thing that we're doing, NGOs have typically had their own volunteer groups, and what we've done is created a cumulative volunteer list, and each month they will get an email from the Chamber that lists all the events that are coming out in the upcoming 3 months. So we sent it out in March, and it will cover all events from April, May, and June, and it will be a rolling email that will go out each month, and it will give them all the volunteer opportunities for that 3-month period, and they can sign up and do any event that they'd like to. The contact information will be available as well. And that way we can cross some of our volunteers with events and activities that they haven't beforehand been a part of. And the other thing is creating, there's been a need to have one place where all the events in Colonial Beach can be located. And we've hemmed and hawed about where that should be, and the final result is that we think it should be on the Visit CBVA calendar. It's difficult, I think, for Flat Shack to be fed information from a million sources. So the Chamber's going to act as the funnel for that. Most of the events for folks in town, they're members of the Chamber, so they will be on our calendar, but we're looking to get information from everybody, including non-Chamber members, that I will then funnel to Susan, who will get on the Visit CBA full calendar. And that way, when people ask, you know, where do we go to find information about everything that's going on, it will be the tourism page for Colonial Beach. So we're excited about all that. The Chamber's also working with and supporting the downtown Colonial Beach on the Osprey Festival, and we're working with the Foundation and Ted Tate with the development of WWER 88.1 FM, We Are Colonial Beach radio station, which, by the way, is it's like a 100-watt radio station, so it won't go very far outside of Colonial Beach, but we're looking forward to promoting our activities and having fun segments on the radio. The Easter egg hunt is coming up April 20th. Rhonda Pitts, as always, is leading that, and she's handling it beautifully. Dr. Karen Self-Sullivan facilitated a Yelp class for Chamber members, and she helped several businesses set up a Yelp account. And it's really popular in the DC, Richmond area, so people go there to access and rate different businesses. The signage for the trolley is going to be advertised for the opportunity to advertise on the trolley will be shared with our members soon, so we look forward to having real estate agents' faces going down the street on the trolley. And as always, thanks to the Town Council and the Town of Colonial Beach for your continued support. Any questions?
All right, Mr. Manager.
Good evening, Council Mayor. Due to time, I'll try to go pretty quick, so please stop me and I'll brief by exception. The first slide we're going to look at is the town manager and department reports. Just a quick update, Toy Smith project's moving right along. I'm sure if you've driven past it, everyone's aware that all of the concrete pads have been paved. If you've noticed the activity recently, it's to do the drainage and the stormwater management. They've actually got hay now, so that means they've got seeding done. Of course, a lot more to follow. I know the vice mayor is going to be interacting with Mr. Howitt to make sure that we're prepared for the brick entranceway, and no issues have arisen as of yet. So everything's moving fine. Flag Shack, as the chamber mentioned, they've been quite busy with doing a lot of preseason activities. Just to share with the public and council, we've had interest in paddle boarding. Wedding with Horse and Carriage of Business has reached out and contacted us. A boat charter, actual historical museum interest as well, and that isn't orthodox what we've seen with that, but we'll see how that one just kind of develops. And just the various numerous media outreach activities and the grants, and primarily the World War II grant that we've been trying to get off the ground here, so we can have a good weekend of World War II activities followed with a ball room. So I know they're going to be pushing that as well. It was also mentioned to me by Flag Shack that they're excited about the volunteer efforts that the chamber has put together, to where there's like a synergy and one pool of volunteers. And we think that this tourist season, we're going to get a lot of goodness out of that activity as well. I have a Commonwealth meeting in Colonial Beach in May. That's where Dahlgren and Dahlgren's commander and the officials come over, and we discuss just regional activities and interests, and that will be at high tides, date still pending. And we are revisiting the P-Card initiative, so I can bring that to you hopefully within the next month. We looked at it back in November. It kind of fell to the wayside over the holidays, and we're just going to bring that back for your review and hopefully approval. I've also spent a considerable amount of time now that I have the town manager's goals from council, nesting those into the objectives that council also decided to move forward in the vision of what you guys came up with, I believe was February. And I'm just making sure that we can align those, and that way we have the next 12 months an organized approach a way forward. And with that in mind, that also involves reconstituting the staff evaluations and job descriptions that have become defunct over time. The Riverside Meadows paving cost question that you requested from the last meeting, we're still working that. We're going through and looking at the last 3 years of cost to confirm the actual cost and to look at invoices and marry those up with the certain monies that we discussed previously. So pending your question, I'll move right along. Finance, it's budget season to no surprise, which is going to dictate a lot of staff, not just finance, but a lot of staff time over the next month. But we're also doing it with new admin software. So that's a wrinkle. That's not necessarily a hiccup, but it's a new wrinkle to our operations. And while there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're going to get a lot more analysis through our new software system, it is in fact a new software system with a new budget process. And just wanted to share that with council. We also just recently submitted the VML insurance for the year last week, as well as we're in business license and parking sticker season. So the finance office is bustling with activity, probably will remain that way till summer. And then, of course, we have our fourth quarter water and sewer billing that's due out as well. Any of your questions, I'll move right along. Police, self-explanatory. We did have significant activity earlier this month. It was a malicious wounding shooting. It occurred on the 300th block of 7th Street. The subject was arrested and is currently incarcerated. No further information. We'd like to also bring out that Mr. Officer Stephen Russo graduated from the Criminal Justice Academy, and he's currently completing his field training. This is great every time we can bring a new officer on board, especially after the turnover that we experienced last year. Zoning and community development, I know that we decided that the CBO activity will go to the county, and that's a good thing. We'll save some monies there. But there's probably going to be a certain learning curve for the citizen and just for the builders as they come in to understand how that type of process will affect them. So there's going to be some continued support in terms of, hey, for zoning, you come to us. For building official stuff, you're going to go to the county. And there's been also a significant amount of zoning and community development attention given to the Commissioner of Revenue due to two parts, one being the preparing of the legal ad for the sale of public properties, which you just voted on one piece of that, and also to receive the map data that the Commissioner of Revenue should have to be able to get the tax IDs to support that effort. And of course, one of the major things the Planning Commission and the Council has indicated that a concern is the outstanding blight issue, specifically along Colonial Avenue, but holistically throughout the town, and there's been a lot of energies dedicated towards that. We do have some court actions in regard to code enforcement, and we anticipate that that's going to continue uninterrupted. Nothing significant to report out of those. And we're also going to have the upcoming Planning Commission 2030 comprehensive plan. So that's going to take some time from community development as well, just making sure everything is appropriate moving forward.
I have one question on that. We have a staff member that might be out in community development, and there's a lot on their plate. Do we use a temp agency, or is there some, I just didn't know for a secretary, or at least somebody at the counter that wasn't the department head.
No, that's a great question, and I'm happy you bring that up, because we have one that's going to be potentially out for medical, and then towards the fall, we're going to have one in finance that's going to be out as well. So we are, from the HR standpoint, we're going to be facing a choke point, if you will, in terms of what we have, and we have had Allison at the counter. I know we've used an unofficial part-timer for our front desk at Town Hall, but as to any institutional knowledge of years past for community, I'm not aware of any.
Well, we did, she worked part-time at the front desk, and then she worked part-time in the county, and then part-time in the building.
Oh, Karen England.
My point being is there may be another opportunity to find something similar to that that's good for more people in town, but also,
We're looking for a part-time gig.
Yeah, and thank you very much for bringing me up in this forum, because that opportunity would exist.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving along to Public Works. The Public Works has been engaged installing Atlantic broadband piping from 205 back to Public Works. This is part of our new landline initiative. About 2 months ago, I was able to secure with Atlantic Broadband an agreement that should save us for our upcoming fiscal year 20 a significant amount of monies. Basically what we paid
and Verizon for landlines, and this is restricted to landlines only. Through that agreement, we were also able to secure fiber down to Public Works. So they've been doing the Public Works aspect of getting the lines laid to get out there to the building. No issues that I know of.
Well, the only problem is we don't have a budget line item for it, so it's something we've got to discuss all of Public Works right now. There's numerous items on the list and things that Rob's been charged to do, but we didn't complete the task by telling him where the money was to do it. And this is one of the issues. I mean, they're trenching 4,000 feet of conduit into the ground, which is no small matter, and he doesn't have any budget to do it. And we've got to discuss some of these things. It's just like the banners, you know. Yeah, we all want to get them up, but then we forget to do a budget appropriation for these things.
Meaning, are we going to put in the Atlantic broadband?
Well, that's kind of what I was asking the question. We ran across
We
this last
moved
Friday.
forward with the agreement. The council instructed me to go forward with the Atlantic Broadband landline agreement, which encompassed getting fiber down to Public Works, which allowed Public Works to start working on the pipeline to get that fiber to the actual
Or
building.
does it, I mean, discuss and ask if everybody in Public Works budget, Public Works feeling appropriate about it. I was in, that's
Yeah.
before the new council.
In the savings that we were gonna get from and this is just the sheer amount, the savings from it was gonna far outweigh, but to
The problem
Mr.
is
Service's
that we're
points.
incurring the cost up front, and we don't really think about that when we're going forward with some of this stuff, and we need to do more. We've got a few items like that right now.
And that's what I was gonna say.
And it's
This is-
really starting to catch up on Rob. I mean, my point being is that these uncommitted or contingency funds or discretionary funds, you know, we pretty much ate the one up on the asbestos removal issue here in this building. You know, and Rob's been trying to rob Peter to pay Paul, but it's really kind of catching up and starting to really put pressure on their numbers. And we're going to have to do some appropriating here, I think, in the last quarter to help them be able to complete some of these items if we still want to do them for this quarter. There's a few of them here that we've got to talk about.
And that leads to the bottom part of the Public Works building, and I will get to that, I just don't want to lose track. The Water Grove facility and the water meter project. Water meter project's 99% communicating, minor issues with a couple outstanding meters, but we're coming to the end of completion. The Robin Grove Water Facility upgrade, the project's 100% complete. We estimate over the next month that it should come up online. There's going to be some major road milling and paving for the first week that we can get 4 or 5 consecutive days of no rain. Keep in mind, and please bear with us, that it is spring, and we're hoping for a drier season. Remains to be seen. And the Klotz building demo will also, and I'm going to have to jump around a little bit just due to the way the conversation developed, but it will make sense. The Klotz building demo, as well as the palm trees, and as well as the banners. Because we're at the end of the fiscal, and the flyover, because we're at the end of the fiscal year, all the contingency money has been used, for good reason, for the mold. We had an extra bill that we were not aware of when we built the budget. So it's been appropriately used, but now we don't have any contingency money to pull from. So the process, in order for us to do the things that council has instructed and intended us to do, is that we're going to ask for budget appropriations moving forward. And some of these costs are pretty nominal in comparison to our overall budget, but this is the right way to go about doing it.
But they're also adding up.
And if we don't document correctly when we build a budget for future time, we will not have that kind of insight as to why we had to appropriate money towards the end of last year. So just to give you an idea, the banners, which is a multi-year project, we knew it was coming. We knew that, and we do want to hang them up. We have a cherry picker need that we do not have organic to Public Works, so we'll have to go out and get a cherry picker. I think, Mr. Murphy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the ballpark number on that is 600 to 800.
Yeah, it was like 500 a day to break in, and if you got past 2 days, you might get a week.
But I've also noticed, and wanted to use this form, that I saw a cherry picker today, as a matter of fact, in town. So maybe there's a possibility that
if something is,
I have already said, I can get a cherry picker half price, and somebody's gotta tell us what we did. I collected most of the money for the banners through the foundation. What I wanna know is how much it will cost from our maintenance department to get those banners up. I will go here on the streets. Tell me how much it is, and tell me what, that's all I want. If nobody will do it, if we can't do it, I am committing right now to getting those banners up. So here I am. So tell me.
Somebody give Joyce to write a check right
I mean,
now.
I'll do whatever it's gonna take. I don't have to write a check, Robin, but I can get those.
I know, I'm sorry.
That, we've gotta get those banners up. Where this doggone closed, now that's case closed. So just, let's move and y'all do another section. Just tell me how much money we need to do. RC has already said we can have his cherry picker half price.
Negotiated.
Yep.
Right now of Washington
And Robin was here. I don't know where she went now, but.
Oh, Robin's right. And there's the, and they could run it another day. I'm sure that John Redmond would let us have that another day.
It's a big, we can get that.
The next one is the Clocks building demolition. We decided last year that we were gonna demolish it, and that's good, and we're gonna turn it into parking, which will generate revenue. But the cost of the demolition of the Clocks building, that needs to be appropriated into the budget. After discussing this with finance, I think we have two options. We have a cash reserves element that can be looked at, or a capital improvement. We retain the property, it will turn into a parking lot that the town will own. That is a capital improvement.
The items that come all over the page here to me, I have 6. The Atlantic broadband piping, the Clocks building demo, which should include also the implementation of the parking lot. Not just the demo, but also the implementation of the parking lot. And the flyover are 3 identified items that come from capital improvements to me. No, palm trees are not a capital improvement. So the piping, the Clocks building demo and parking lot install, and then the flyover is part of a bigger formulation of a stormwater plan. That's like step 1 in that bigger capital improvement item. And then the 3 items that are not capital improvements are the banners, the Santa Maria specific issue, and the palm trees. And the palm trees can come out of the town council budget line item.
We just need to move that forward.
Yeah. Huh? I don't know, there's $2,000 in this expenditure that.
in the past to like build all this stuff and go like myself.
I think that $2,000 that's there is so that I have enough ink.
No, not $2,000 that's there. In expenditures, there were $2,000 more that was spent in furniture. And then there is no, in contracts professional services, last year we spent $4,000.
You have to compare to see what was budgeted, you have to see what was budgeted in 19 and where you're currently at. I could be wrong, but I believe that it was, town council's numbers would not cover. Yeah, I don't think it was there.
Because we've got first of all, we haven't paid the bill for the palm trees, and we still have to do removal and installation, so we've got the whole lot to do. And it seems like,
I don't know what the budget number is because it's not on this sheet.
Use it all last year.
But last year or the year before, those all had
But we didn't
allocated.
budget, that's why in
We didn't
19,
budget.
when we budgeted in 19.
Why wouldn't you budget for something that's had an expense for the last 5 years?
Because that's not how you appropriately budget, you budget based on anticipated costs. Because if we're going to do that, then I can have your budget early next week and just do the average of the last 5 years and we'll just go with that. That's not the way to look at a
So we
budget.
just said we won't use anything in those line items at all.
Well, last year, when we were going through the budget process, because it was so lengthy with where money was allocated, we had to do a flatline budget, and we said, no frills, what is it truly gonna, almost like a life support issue, and we had to make a lot of cuts, knowing that we had to reduce the revenues that were over projected from years before. So when we did last year's budget, it was truly a flatline.
Yeah, but with our more conservative revenue projections, we are exceeding that revenue projection right now.
Well, we did talk about that at the last meeting, and I said, and we all, I believe, were in agreement that we did not want to take, we were ahead on, I think, the delinquent collections, and I don't think you all wanted to go ahead and appropriate that additional money, because we don't know what the second payment in June will be. I mean, if it mirrors that, then yes.
That's the problem right there.
What does she mean, the second payment in June?
The next one of.
The next run of revenue
Yeah, but
comes in June.
Revenue in our 2019 thing that you gave us included a full year of revenue. When I looked at
But
the,
you're talking about actual, I mean, okay.
No, it's,
I just got it up there.
Let me go back real quick. So, we don't have a contingency fund anymore at all, correct? But we have certificates of deposit and money in the bank, right?
right, we have unassigned fund balance also.
$58,000 to have this mold remediation if there's an emergency thing. So why wasn't that money taken out of one of those savings accounts? Let's call them whatever
We
you want.
directed them to pay for it out.
Yeah, you guys
We
told us,
directed
yeah.
them.
Okay, well, but now we should direct them to take the money out of one of those accounts.
Oh, you can replenish that
Yeah.
contingency, absolutely,
Put it
yeah.
back into this account, pay for these things here, then at the end of, when June comes and we collect our revenues, which will be higher than we were last year because of our fiscal restraint, we'll put money back into the reserve.
That-
Fine with me,
That's
fine with me.
basically what we were talking about,
Yeah.
and why we're bringing that up.
That's fine.
What I don't want to hear is that we're not spending as much money as we spent before, that we had an emergency, and now our hands are tied behind our back to do any of the things that are so important to this town.
Mr. Mayor, I apologize if that's the perception we were giving. That was not the intent. What we were saying is in order for the formality for me to come to you next meeting with a request for appropriation, this is the pro
Next meeting's April, and, the banner's gotta get up, palm trees gotta get up, we gotta approve the flyover, we gotta approve tearing down the Cox building, which has all been done, it's gotta be paid for, so.
We never completed the task by telling them where to pay for it from. That's the whole.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, and remember, I had put in I had suggested the whole 111.
Yeah, but some of these are gonna come from capital improvements and some of them are gonna not, so.
Right, but so,
We're doing that still.
right, so I mean, I don't know what this total is, but,
We're getting $55,000 from the resolution.
into town building and site repair, or we, yeah, or, I mean, you guys can absolutely say that amend it to cover XXXX, you can definitely do that.
So in the resolution tonight, we should amend it to cover.
If you guys so choose, correct.
Got it.
And the current resolution stands that 55,627 is going back into capital projects.
Right, and so
You can choose, if we can choose to put
to
it back
skip
there.
the capital project.
Right,
And
because
go straight to the capital specific project that we
in,
want to
within the
allocate.
operating fund, correct.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah.
Fine,
Yeah.
I'm fine with all of that.
When we get to the resolution,
Okay, I might have to.
And we spent, a lot of this came out, we met last Friday, we had a long meeting with Rob, and we're trying to understand the things that he was having to absorb that were not anticipated in the budget last year, because there weren't items we knew anything about.
Okay.
And so we came up with this list of items that basically he has to do something with, but really has not been told where to pay for it. That's what really is what we've come up with.
Okay.
And I'm perfectly cool, content with all that. My question is, I mean, you just can't tell me that there's not some way that we're gonna be able to fund this. I don't want to
We
send
just
that
gotta
message.
tell them what to do.
So, because face value to me, it appeared that we were gonna, go through this thing one little piece at a time and rob from Peter to pay Paul. But I know that we have some money in reserves. I know we spent $58,000 when we were here. If that was an emergency, we should have some kind of contingency for emergencies like that, so it doesn't affect our forward moving budget.
Well, that's the example we kind of used when we were talking about this the other day. Rob brought to us last year, or earlier in the year, the issue of the asbestos, saying this is what it's gonna cost, this is what we gotta do it now. And then we as a council decided where those funds would come from, and we passed a resolution saying, take the money from here and do it. And that's what he's got to start doing on anything that's not in the budget, because he's trying to rob Peter, pay Paul, and it completely screws up the logic of our budget, is what's happening.
But this doesn't make it cleaner,
Yes,
this
and so it's
resolution,
just,
right?
it's not that we're gonna go over or anything, but like you said, because we ate up the contingency or the discretionary funds with the asbestos, the idea of maybe reimbursing that out of the general fund, that would work, and then they would take the funds from that and
That's
put it
my
into these
point.
line
I
items.
don't want to go through a process of where we're saying that we're not gonna, we potentially are not gonna do these things. I'd like to see these things in the budget as we had suggested and recommended, that they're in the budget. And then if we bolster our emergency fund for when we have something like the,
But we can't wait on these for the budget. We've gotta do them now.
In the next process, this is a good learning process for the new people, for me, for sure, because
So now, now we
Now-
know that the palm trees are gonna die every year, we got a budget to replace them every year. So this year, there's gonna be a line item now for the palm trees.
yeah, I got you.
And it have to be a line item for maintaining the new rec park
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So we've got some
That,
things
and
that
there's
we're.
insurance
Okay.
and all of those kinds of things.
Very good.
you have our goals and objectives,
No,
Gladys?
no, it was good. It was, we needed to do this.
I
This
will
was
send
a
it
whole
to
This
you.
is to make sure it happens. This is to support it, just.
Correct. Rob's been catching a lot of heat. And we're trying to help straighten it out.
So I think that was the crux of the department reports, pending any additional questions.
And if I could, Dallas, we did spend a lot of time on the paving issue, and we're gonna get to the bottom of it, and we're pulling all the vendor files. The problem is, right now, there's a bunch of stuff mixed into the cost. And we're gonna break out the cost specific to the paving at Meadows, specific, so that we can isolate that, because the number ended up being mixed up with a bunch of stuff. We will have that.
Any questions? Okay. Next on the agenda is item 10, unfinished business. Okay.
Yes.
It's resolution 15-19. This amends fiscal year 2018-2019 budget, general fund, and transfers from general fund to capital projects. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Discussion.
I'd like to propose to amend resolution 15-19 to clarify in item number 2 that the 50% that is to go to the CIP funds be specifically allocated to capital improvements that include the Atlantic broadband piping, the Klotz building demo and parking lot structure, and the beginning of the stormwater management in the meadows.
You talking about
Yes, the flyover, but if there were a next step to the flyover, that money could still be a part of that
We're gonna
stormwater.
run this, we're gonna burn that 55 grand.
Oh, no, I agree, I'm just leaving it a little bit open on purpose. And then the other 50% of that 111 number, that is appropriated to the operating fund of town buildings and site repairs, be allocated to at least include the installation of the new banners, the Howitt review of the Santa Maria survey, and the new order of the palm trees. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ooh, wow.
Third and fourth. Okay, so there's a motion to approve an amended resolution, the amended resolution 15-19. Is there a motion to approve it, but no? It's on that, no, back to the original.
We're voting.
We're voting. Mr. Howard?
I don't want to talk about the number one part.
Only one part. Okay, yeah,
$25,002.
yeah.
And Dallas brought the fact about the pavement is a little bit off, that's why I got me thinking about this too. And I actually went back on my vacation and looked at our end of the year budget, the one that we got in December of last year. And I think that $25,002 is not what was left over, based off the line right there. That's what we actually spent for that fiscal year. Based on here, it says we actually have $43,738 left over. I just want to make sure that that's the right number, it's 25,000.
Right, so that was, so it's 100,000 originally, and this, we already, right, and so some of, so 50 was to cover flashback, but the contract didn't start until February, okay? And then the other position was not used. Now, some of that 50 that wasn't used went to, no, it was, like, when we were doing all those, at the time, planning and zoning had a lot of needs for, what was that? The initiative, they were gonna be doing, called, not appraisals, and stuff like assessments, things like that. Right, yes. Right, well, I'm only asking for, so this address is just Black Shack.
That's what I want to make sure.
That's it, so, yeah, that, I'm just addressing Black Shack, that's all. That's all I'm
That
addressing.
line item,
Yeah.
regulates, so the budget originally for 100,000, but we appropriated 68,740.59 cents. And then what was year to date spent at the end of the fiscal year was 25,002.
Right, because we, so in other words, so we had 100 and then, the remaining was 60 in it, correct? Right, is that what you're looking at?
It was budgeted for 100.
And then put in the second column is
Appropriated
the,
was 68,740.
right,
We spent 25,02.
Right.
And unencumbered was 43,738.
right. So what that is that, so the difference between the 100 and the 60, that got moved to other needs in other departments, okay? And I believe a good chunk of it went to plumbing and zoning. But so that's where, so if the Black Shack had started, the full 50 would have been there.
I just want to make sure,
Yeah.
because what it looks like in the resolution, so that was unassigned, but based off the budget, that looks like that number is.
No, it's a terminology of fund balance.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to make sure that was straight, so that we, because like Quinn said, we didn't fully fund them this year because we weren't sure if we were going to continue the contract.
Right.
I just want to make sure that number is the right number to fully.
It's 50, yes. So this year in 20, what we should do is put the full 50.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Right.
thinking too, is like, even, not that we're not going to continue, but just
Right.
in case, we don't
Yeah.
do it for the full year.
Right,
And then if for some reason you don't continue with them, then you have extra money
Right.
left over.
yeah.
I just want to make sure that way, I guess this year we appropriated 24,998 then, and then this 25,02 equals out the full 50.
It's actually 50,004.
Well, but yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
so
what
that makes it, so if you take the, whatever we're paying her every month, if you multiply that times 12, it's 50,004.
I just want to make sure I just want to make sure we didn't underfund it and have to come back later on. and then-
No.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that Black Shack, we have money to cover Black Shack, because that's a known monthly. Now, we did, she's doing additional things, which we will then also budget in 20 for, because she's doing,
Last year we had the website.
Yes,
additional costs,
yeah,
material, a couple of
yeah.
advertisements,
and then it's being tracked this year, under, it says tourism related. So she'll send us an invoice and we put the full amount, which is for her services, and then the other ones for tracking that are all tourism related. So we're going to, we've tracked that so far this year, and then, we're gonna, project that separately.
Yeah, I think that's why I just want to make sure that we
Yeah.
weren't gonna
Yeah.
fix something and not fully fix it the way it should have
Yeah.
been fixed and stuff like that.
Okay. So back to the amended resolution 15-19. And it's ready for a vote. Mr. Hauser?
Aye.
Mr. I?
Aye.
Mr. Lambert?
Aye.
Mr. Serby?
Aye.
Ms. Robertson?
Aye.
Ms. Schick? Chair votes aye. Thank you. All right.
Anything else on,
Yeah.
I think now it's moving our agenda, and I think we skipped the board in March 19th. We moved everything around, I just want to make sure.
I know, but I appreciate you bringing it up. Okay, citizen report. We've got Tim Bond.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council, I overheard a comment regarding the Santa Maria project.
I will say this, they are working on it, they're not waiting
Well-
for us to approve the money.
Okay, that's why I'm trying to follow up on this, because I know at their last meeting,
Yeah.
Mr. Murphy said a couple weeks. Now I'm reading here, weather dependent. Well, I know Jeff is a very busy man.
He was out there.
But
He was out there
he was out there today?
I saw him.
So hopefully by the next meeting, we can have a discussion about
We
it.
just gotta do this to pay, but he's doing the work.
All right, I don't have to say no more then. I'll
I
talk to y'all
commend
next
you for your
meeting.
follow-up.
What's that?
I commend you for your follow-up.
Oh, I'm gonna be here every week.
I'm just-
I've got bullfrogs talking to me now in the front ditch and stuff. All right, thank you.
Victoria? Victoria Paulson? Okay. Just reading the ones to you. Robert, Walter Kearns.
Well, let's see. First of all, a number of years ago, Colonial Beach did have a radio station. It was WGRQ, and they were here for maybe 8 years, and eventually they moved to Fredericksburg, and they are still in operation. A couple months ago, I talked about the memorial board in the foyer. And nothing has been done on that. And I will also, because everybody knows, I am a big recreation person. Every high school coach in the school system right now, they play football and baseball for us. And I think it's time, because I also ride on that project up on the Watertown field, and I love it. And I think it's time that the council consider a recreation department. And I thank you.
I think Mr. Serby and Mr. I are working on
We've identified 4 candidates that we just want to get 3 out of, and we want to just get commitments before we name them, if that's okay. But the board hasn't been updated since 2005. It's been, Pat and I've been through a lot, we've been trying to think of people to ask to be on it that may not be potential recipients also. So it's been, we've come up with something.
Way to take something away from school.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm working on making the initial contact to the Corps and getting confirmation, and then we'll be able to announce that.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kearns. There's a motion to close the meeting.
Eddie, I was late, can I speak?
You certainly can. Come on
I'm
up.
sorry.
I always get the end. My name is Joyce Gunderson, and I live at 919 Bryant Avenue. I hate to beat a dead horse. When can we get the banners up? We would like to really have maybe a date. That's my question. I'll throw that out there.
We'll let you know.
Okay, that's good. And seriously, if we need to go forward on something monetary, we will go forward on our end with the foundation, and I'm speaking for the foundation, okay? And for downtown. The other thing that I want to mention, I spend a lot of time in the zoning office. I have rental properties, as most people know, and we had an issue, and it was brought to my attention that, this is just throwing it out, that Allison had said that many towns have like a kind of a cleanup day, and maybe we could have a big, like a big, what do they call the thing from Waste Management, one of those, and we do it every quarter, and a big dumpster, and maybe have it once a year, a quarter, and then maybe we could talk to Waste Management and see if they would move it, if we would, because there seems to be a lot of people that don't have the pickup truck. So that's my suggestion, because there's lots of stuff in town that really needs to be picked up for elderly people and stuff like that. And then maybe we could get together and do a volunteer Saturday where some of us that have pickups could do it or something like that, but food for thought. Okay? Or yeah, like a cleaning cleanup or something. I didn't have any idea until it was brought to my attention that the reason why people have such messes is they can't get it to the dumps and stuff like that. No. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Joyce.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, may I add something to that? I spent several years in Fredericksburg, and one of my other duties as assigned when I got there was heading up the Clean Community Commission. And so twice a year, we put dumpsters throughout the city, and people could, within blocks, just take their things, dump them, and then when they were pulled away and a new dumpster was put in its place, and it worked very well to help. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. Sounds like a great idea. And, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I think we just give Teresa a dumpster truck.
So, you find it necessary to do this tonight? Yes.
Yes. Mr.
All right,
Mayor,
so there's a motion to go into closed meeting, is there a second?
I would request the council go into closed session
Okay.
under 2.23711H, which is consultation with legal counsel employed or trained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring provision of legal advice by such counsel. And the two matters would be issues relating to the collection of past due water and sewer charges, and issues relating to contract requirements in the wastewater agreement.
Very good. That's definitely want to go into closed session. Thank you.
Yeah, we all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is actually very exciting.
I don't.
2 minutes.
I know.